Hi, I'm Tristan.
And I'm Ben. And welcome back to the fairy tale and back to the show. And if you couldn't already tell, in this episode of RWBY Ramblings, we will be discussing the Volume 5 opening.
Indeed, and what an opening it was. RWBY openings are typically incredible. This one also makes the list.
Yeah, I really love the openings in general. They're one of my favorite pieces because they're so dense and there's so much to say about them. I have so many notes in front of me right now, and I'm really excited to talk about them.
Indeed, but before that, we should mention that we have seen all of Volume 5, and as such, we are going to break this episode up into a non-spoiler section where we talk about as if we've seen it for the first time, and then a spoiler section where we use our Volume 5 knowledge to discuss the opening.
As we have been doing for our previous trailer videos, etc.
Yes, exactly. All right, so jumping right in, lovely scenery of presumably Mistral and potentially Haven at the top, and then there's a crow or raven.
Yep, that flies in.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that we know that this is Haven / Mistral from the end of Volume 4. I'm pretty sure we got a glimpse of it when they were coming in at the airship at the last episode at the end.
That's certainly possible.
And so then, as you said, there's the crow or raven in the first shot, which, we can only presume is crow or raven.
Yes, that is. It could just be a normal bird.
But that seems pretty unlikely.
I agree.
Yeah, so what do you think about that being there?
So, I have a few thoughts about that. I mean, the primary one is that we know that Crow has been following RWBY's group, so it could mean that, like following them into Haven. It could also, and Mistral. It could also be Raven because presumably she's in the area. That is why Yang's going there.
Right. And I just bring it up because in this first 18 seconds or so of the trailer, before the title card.
I mean, who's counting?
But. It's when we see the four main girls.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting choice to me, and it draws attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then putting another character kind of right in there, especially right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And to me personally, what I think it probably is it's probably just an opportunity to show Mistral Haven, set the scene and sort of act as an introduction to the four main girls title cards. So I don't know if it's critically important, but I just think that it's an interesting choice.
Okay.
And I think it can also point to we know that Raven and Crow are going to be critically important in this volume, and we know that specifically because there was actually another trailer, the Volume 5 trailer, which we didn't cover in a podcast episode, and we're not planning on covering. But there was one important piece of information to get from that trailer, and I just wanted to put it out there, and that's that in the trailer, Crow mentions that he knows that Raven knows the location /has /whatever the Spring Maiden. So based on that information, we know that Raven has the Spring Maiden, and presumably Crow is leading the gang there.
Okay, that is pretty important, considering, well, they're siblings and such, and also that having a Crow or Raven show up in the very beginning does signify how important they are. So yeah, I can agree with that. One thing I also want to mention is that the little riff that they have as soon as the thing opens, as soon as just that awesome, you just know this is going to be great. So I think that also is just the setup, just to give it that one little transition into.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, as you're saying, a transition. It's also the transition into the song and lyrics as well. So yeah, it's just awesome scenery, awesome music, bird. It's good.
Good stuff.
Anyway, as you were saying, we get 4 little shots of our main characters.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously they go in, the order of the team. And one of the things that I think is easy to miss in not just these series of scenes, but all of the series of scenes in this opening, because they're generally really fast.
Yes.
Is the expressions on their faces.
That's good. That's a good point.
Which
I'm glad you bring it up.
I definitely had a chance to analyze watching this not opening.
Yes.
50 times or whatever.
Yep.
So So the first one is
RWBY.
RWBY, starting off.
Yeah.
Um, it looks like what does it look like to you?
Okay, so you have her just standing in the middle of an opening at night. I want to mention. Uh,
Totally normal.
okay, sure. Her cape flowing and little petals going after, and then it zooms in on her face where you see her eyes, silver eyes. We know that's very important and such, but also as it goes away from her, you see her face harden and almost like her resolve is building up and stuff like that. It's kind of like seems like it's a I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to face something.
It looked to me what I interpreted that her expression as there, and it's kind of hard to tell because not just because the scene is so quick, but because like you can't see her mouth for like half of it.
Yeah.
But it looked to me like she was sighing, like she was kind of like, here we go.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
Okay, that is not how I interpreted it.
It's like she's shouldering a burden.
Okay. I mean, it's certainly possible, but I don't know. I kind of felt like the initial view of just her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I know without her mouth it is a bit difficult to get the full whatever facial expression is, but I don't know. It kind of felt like to me it was maybe her steeling herself, just getting ready. For me, it was more of a getting ready for something big. Maybe it is like, oh, I have this burden, I need to do something with it, but I don't know. I kind of felt like it was more a looking forward, getting ready.
Okay, so I think in either whichever interpretation you buy, she's sort of steeling herself or preparing herself.
Yes.
Which, yeah, makes sense.
Yes.
And then of course the focus is, as you already mentioned, on her eyes, which
yeah.
are important as we already know, and
mm-hmm.
will probably come up again.
I imagine so.
Safe bet.
Safe bet. The silver eyes matter. I mean, if you want a refresher, you can go back to Volume 3 and listen to Crow talk about it. It's pretty important. Also in Volume 4, around a campfire. Pretty important. But anyway, next one, Weiss. She has an airship.
Mm-hmm. And
daytime this time.
And first, I just want to mention.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can mention this at the end just as validly, but the transitions between each of these cuts are really beautiful.
Petals.
With the vignette? I don't know, like, words.
Petals.
No, like where like the edge gets all like movie bordery.
It gets fuzzy and all that.
I think the word is vignette, but I could be.
Okay.
There's a high chance I'm wrong. Anyway, It gets all like movie-y like that, and then it shatters into the petals, and it's also in sync with the music, and the petals are the color, and obviously we'll talk about the music.
It's so good.
But
it's so well done.
I really love this first 18-second before the title card opening. It's just so like well paced and well crafted.
I agree. I believe this entire trailer is very well crafted with the music, although I believe most RWBY trailers are. By most, I mean all. Opening. I apologize so much. We have talked way too much about trailers when they're actually character shorts that...
It's okay.
It's fine. Anyway, Weiss, airship. Looking down. But then, as similarly to RWBY, kind of like tightens up her face, hardens her face, curls up a fist a little bit, and kind of like looks up, like once again, kind of prepared to move forward.
Yeah, so it's pretty clear that it seems like Weiss is on the airship that she was leaving Atlas on.
Yes.
Just to like solidify the setting. And yeah, to me it looks like she clenches her fist, and I would describe her facial expression as determined.
Yes.
And I'm not sure.
Filled with determination.
Yeah. And that's probably about like her decision to leave Atlas. She's like, I've made the right choice.
Yeah.
Etc.
Trying to get herself to believe
or trying to get herself to believe she's made the right choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, it's good. She's thinking much more for herself. She's taking her own decisions. And, I mean, as you can see at the end of Volume 4, she's making that. But this is also a nice intro to that as well.
A lot of writing these notes was just, like, thinking up vocab words for emotions.
Yeah.
I only failed some of the time. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to mention about Weiss's before we move on to Blake?
No. I mean, we could just see that, I mean, all of these, like, sort of short takes kind of, like, set the scene in a very preliminary sense for, in my opinion, what the characters will be facing, like
Mm-hmm.
part of their internal struggle.
Yes.
Um,
Very much agree.
so, and Weiss's is obviously about her, still her resolve to find herself and be her own person.
Yes. And connection to the Schnee name as she's leaving the place. Anyway, Blake. This one's interesting because I felt like it was a change from a look of resolve and determination to a look of anguish and
Yes, anguish is one of the words I used as
yeah.
well. It looks to me like, so she's sitting there. It looks like she grimaces a little bit, and then she like looks down as if she's disappointed in herself.
I'm thinking that's also that she might. To me, it kind of felt like she was torn between something. That she's like, oh gosh, I have to make a decision almost.
Right. I mean, yeah, I could see that. Right after I have disappointed in himself, the next words I use to describe it are internally anguishing.
Okay.
Which pretty much captures what you said, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
That she's torn,
Mm-hmm.
or it looks like she's really struggling with something. And I mean, we know that Blake's obviously been struggling with, like who she is, how she relates to her friends, and how she relates to the White Fang.
Yeah.
All of these things define her character. She's full of internal struggles.
Yeah. Faunus, among other things, as well.
Yes, the relationship of the Faunus to the humans, and how a human should treat the Faunus, and etc.
Okay. Yang. Motorcycle.
Yep, Yang is at Bumblebee, so she's where she was at the end of Volume 4, roughly riding Bumblebee towards
somewhere.
Either RWBY or Raven.
Yes. And she kind of like looks down a little bit, and then looks up. Once again, I feel like a sense of determination, or
to me, she looks like she's resolute and like sort of looking ahead into the future.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good. It captures one of the themes of this trailer in the lyrics. It's opening in the lyrics that gets expanded on later, but it's partially about moving on from the
past,
the recovery, the past, and from the recovery storylines of Volume 4.
Yes.
At the end of Volume 4, Yang is ready to finally move on.
Yeah.
And get back to it.
Yeah, most of the characters, like 3 of the 4, it seems like moving forward is a thing. Well, with Blake, the one character is like, hey, you should really move forward. She's like looking down.
Always the odd one out. Poor Blake.
I know, right? But anyway, you ready to get into some lyrics? Or do you want to keep going?
Oh, well.
Oh, actually, I have one more thing, but too. But
you go first.
Okay.
I'll do mine next.
My thing is that clearly you can tell that they are in different locations. And this is important because this is showing, oh, hey, they're all in separate locations. They all have their own story to go through at the moment. And I like how RWBY is night, Weiss is day, Blake is night again, and then Yang is day.
Not to get detail, I don't think I really noticed that day-night thing.
Yeah, they switch it up for reasons I don't understand, but I like it aesthetically.
That's good. And it is important to remember that they're still all in different places, and part of this volume is presumably, so my assumption is that they will reunite during this volume. Obviously, they're all headed towards each other.
I mean, the very end of the
opening. Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're all together at the end of the opening.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that, at the end of Volume 4, they're all more or less headed towards each other, except for Blake. I think that by the end of this volume, they will all be back together again. That is what I thought upon my viewing of this.
I agree. It seems like they will start separated and end together as they do in this trailer. Opening. Goodness gracious. But
it's almost like the opening is always a parallel exactly for what's going to happen in the volume. Volume 3.
Yes, very much so.
So we could probably expect similar things in this.
I would agree. I would also, it would make sense that they would all come back together from their separate areas somehow.
Plus, Jeff Williams would never lie to us.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. So, there's one more thing before the stanza ends. And the way that my notes are sort of split up between going back and forth between the what's actually happening in the trailer and the lyrics.
Okay.
Is that, so it ends on the title card, right?
Yes.
Which is Ruby, Rooster Teeth, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah, yeah.
all that stuff. And one thing that I just wanted to bring up, because, Lord knows this podcast isn't going to be long enough. Why not go on more tangents?
Always.
So when I was paused at this title card, I'm looking at it,
Yeah.
and the thing that I noticed most, prominently, other than just being, the generic, mountainy background.
It's pretty.
The title, it is pretty. And there's also the moon.
Yes.
Right. Hanging up above.
It is.
What's up with the moon?
What with all being broken and stuff?
Yeah.
It's been like that.
No, I know it. I know it's been like that, but we've never talked about it.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's like that?
I have very little thoughts onto why the moon is like that, and I believe if anything, it would have been caused by a very large and powerful force clashing.
Okay, because I'm torn over whether it's a purely aesthetic choice, whether the designers were like, oh man, we're gonna have a shattered moon.
Oh, I doubt it.
It's gonna look so cool, because it does.
It does.
It does. That's a totally valid interpretation, I think.
I have a feeling it is story based.
I'd like to believe that it is involved in the plot somehow.
Yes.
One of the reasons I bring it up is that recently, well, fairly recently, I guess at this point, I read the book Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson.
Okay.
And that is relevant because the concept of the book, very briefly, is that something shatters the moon.
Sure.
And what happens in the book is that originally the moon's broken up into 7 fragments, and then rapidly those fragments start crashing into each other and decompose into a giant asteroid belt. Anyway, there's a rain of fire that kills everyone on Earth. Whatever. Anyway, my point is, if RWBY were being realistic in their physics,
yes,
and
which they don't horrible.
They don't have to be because semblances and grid, etc.
Yeah.
Then if I were trusting Neil Stephenson's interpretation of the moon breaking up, and I do, because his books are very well researched.
Okay.
What would happen is that those moon fragments would rapidly decay into smaller moon fragments.
Okay.
And so, if RWBY were being physically realistic,
so you're saying the world,
then the breakup of the moon would be a recent event. I don't think that's true.
Okay. Wait,
but
how recent in terms of actual centuries?
I mean, if I remember the timeline from so obviously it's not. It's probably not. Because if I remember the timeline from the book, it only took a couple of weeks for the 7 fragments of the moon to start breaking down into smaller fragments.
Then there's absolutely no way.
I know there's no chance.
Okay.
But I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's interesting, and I'm wondering if it's I'm wondering how much thought has really gone into it, because the range is from purely aesthetic to hyperrealism.
Okay. So I think that it does have very important implications. I just think that it's something that only would be resolved in a flashback where you see that the moon is not broken.
Dream episode requests right here.
Right here. No, I do think that there's a very important story and lore-based reason. We just don't know it yet because it hasn't become relevant yet.
Right.
Okay. But since you bring up a tangent of moon being destroyed, the only thing that comes to mind for me is Assassination Classroom, which for anyone who has not watched or read it,
I haven't watched it.
It's decent. But essentially, the moon gets destroyed by a single character as almost a warning of, oh, okay, hey, I can destroy the Earth. I just blew up the moon.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, yeah, so you kind of don't want to mess with me, and this is what I want to do, and you're gonna let me do it, or I destroy the world. It's really simple.
Okay. Yeah. That's a
very baseline way of describing that.
That's a good potential interpretation.
Yeah. I don't think it's very relevant to RWBY, but
not yet. But
no.
I'm hoping that they tie it into the plot eventually.
I agree.
And I kind of expect that they will. Maybe not anytime soon, but
no,
hopefully. Anyway,
I doubt that's anything we'll find out this volume.
Yeah,
seems like they're busy with other things.
Probably not.
Anyway, lyrics. Okay, so you got the back to the fairy tale, back to the show. While that plays, it's Ruby's face. Then you got yes.
Are you going to say all the lyrics first, and then we're going to talk about them? Because you can do that.
If you want to break it, because I do have it broken up in terms of what shows up wow with the lyrics. So back to the fairy tale, back to the show with Ruby simply just kind of makes me think, okay, this is kind of like getting back into it. In my opinion, kind of shows the resolve a little bit more.
I just feel like this line is like strangely meta.
It is.
Because it's like, obviously referring to the show RWBY.
So
Well, I mean,
that's potential.
maybe not. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's just how I interpret it, and
Okay.
it's more like a figurative show.
So the reason I can definitely see why the very first time I heard it, I kind of thought they were doing that. I was gonna say that's interesting, but
Right.
but when it's back to the fairy tale, okay, we know a whole bunch of characters are based on fairy tales, and they've used the word fairy tale or kind of like heroes and all this other fantasy elements in many other songs. So it's not shocking that they'd call it back to the fairy tale, and then back to the show. Although in one sense it's kind of like, oh hey, back to the actual show and look at this, breaking a fourth wall a little bit, but it also kind of has the idea of just the typical phrase of, okay, let's get back to the show, or like let's get back into it, or something like that.
Yeah. Up until the very moment when I said that, I thought it was definitely like nothing but meta.
Okay.
But as soon as I said that, I realized that that's also like a totally valid in-universe line to say,
Yes.
and that it could just be a sort of like double entendre meta thing.
Correct.
So yeah, that's fine, I guess.
Alrighty. And that's with Ruby. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because for me, it just kind of felt like it kind of started with Ruby, and it's kind of like we're getting back into it.
I mean, I think it goes with what my interpretation of what she's doing on that, where she's like steeling herself for the challenges ahead.
Just getting ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then back to the wall, nowhere to go with Weiss, which I find that an interesting pairing because she is currently leaving the place that you would call her cage.
Right, but you could also say that she's sort of out of options.
I also agree with that, but I just found it interesting. Like, oh hey, there's nowhere to go, but she is kind of lost in where she's going. She's like, oh hey, I'm gonna just go in this. Like there, she does have a direction, but it's not exactly a clear one.
Right, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I love the transition between the first two uses of back to this use of back.
Very much so.
I just think it's really clever.
I agree. It took me a moment to realize what was actually what they were saying.
It's like a
and what it
great
meant.
misleading thing that like good job, Jeff.
Yep. But yeah. I mean, my main thoughts was this. I found it an interesting pairing of Weiss.
No, you're right.
That.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see how it fits because she's kind of boxing herself in terms of her options of. She's kind of putting all her eggs in the basket of like winter. Kind of winter because it seems like that's where she's headed.
Right, and her team, maybe, because they'll support her.
Yeah, but I don't think she knows where they are.
Right. No,
She doesn't.
That's a good point.
She's heading in a direction.
She has been characteristically isolated.
Yes.
And there's no reason that she would have any idea where her teammates are.
Nope.
So yeah, she's betting on winter right now, and she's
Yeah.
kind of burning her bridges with the rest of her family.
Yes. So nowhere to go kind of is correct.
Yeah.
Then hopeless, desperate, all paths adverse. This is why, partially, I think why Blake is torn with something, because all paths are bad.
Right. Sometimes there's no easy decision.
Yeah, there is no easy way out in whatever is going on, which is correct. If she is dealing with the fact that, oh, she needs to maybe fight Ilya, which something we mentioned when we talked about the Blake character short, like, oh, she's torn about doing that.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And then also but also the White Fang, in her opinion, are not doing something good for the Faunus, so it's a bad decision either way, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's kind of what my interpretation of that little line connected with Blake is. Although using the terms hopeless and desperate are interesting. Because I don't think she's a character that feels hopeless. But once again, this is lyrics being tied to pictures. It's not necessarily
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
completely.
I don't know if the lyrics are one to one paired with what's being
Yes.
shown on the screen at all, but it is there is probably some connection.
Yeah.
And it's good to bring it up.
Yeah. And then lastly, things looking bleak and about to get worse. So my initial thoughts on that are just kind of with since it's with Yang's like, oh hey, look your arm. You have another one, by the way.
Ouch.
I mean, okay, that was pretty much that wasn't the darkest part of the song. It gets slightly, or at least this portion of the song,
Right.
it gets a little bit worse. But in general, it's a very optimistic song. So I don't think.
Well,
yeah.
So this song is like a sliding scale
Okay.
of sentiment. It starts out being this verse is undeniably bleak.
Oh yeah.
And so is the next one.
Yes.
But obviously we'll get there. But this verse is negative.
Yes.
It's like it's not quite as negative as the opening verse of the Volume 3 trailer.
No.
But it is still fairly negative on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we progress through this
it gets,
at least cut of the song, it gets, more upbeat and more optimistic.
Yes.
More triumphant.
Yes.
You could say.
Yes.
Yeah, but at this point in the song, it is still downcast.
Which I think is fair, because things looking bleak, about to get worse. Things are not looking too great. I mean, they're not necessarily looking bad, but the world's kind of still in shambles. Things aren't exactly going good because there's no communications. Although the good guys seems like Oscar just met up with Crow and the RWBY group people. So, which is the last thing you see in Volume 4. So
right.
It seems like people are starting to get together.
And if you think about it narratively, we know that there are the 3 volume arcs.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the middle volume, clearly.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me for if we assume that the song is going to be somewhat of a parallel for the track of the volume.
Yeah.
Then it seems like the volume will be going uphill and ultimately be optimistic, which I think would be an important step in terms of being the third volume in the arc, because you got to give them some hope before you snatch it all away again.
Yeah, that is kind of what they did last time.
Otherwise, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah. So, but things looking bleak, about to get worse. So it's already bleak and it's gonna get worse. But due to the rest of the song getting more optimistic, you think it's gonna get better. Okay.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Anything else you want to say about that small chunk? Because you did say those 18 seconds are amazing.
No, that's all I have to say about up to the title card.
Okay. Well, now then it just has Ruby, Weiss, Blake grabbing weapons while Yang motorcycling in. That's the next
yeah.
step.
Sorry, I think that's before that.
That's before song lyrics start coming up, but I like this because, one, I think it goes with they're all stealing themselves, grab weapon, weapon.
Yeah, they're all just getting ready.
Shows different locations, just still emphasizing the fact they are not together.
Right.
And then motorcycle forward with red eyes. That I find interesting. I find it interesting that the red eyes are at the very, that they even show up.
Okay, does she have red eyes when she's driving off in that scene?
Very end.
Very end?
Okay. So
I
at first, while she's
them.
driving in, she has purple. She has her normal color. I'm not exactly sure what color they are.
Definitely purple.
Okay, purplish. And then but at the very end, pretty much when the very last, I don't want to call them slides, but one of the very last cuts. Thank you. One of the last cuts is the red eyes, which I find interesting because.
What do you think that means, if anything?
So, at the end of Volume 4, we were saying that she had gone training, and then at the end so in the Yang character short, we kind of saw that she relied on her semblance, and that is signified by her red eyes. So the fact that they show up makes me concerned, because it makes me wonder if the training did enough.
Right. It seems like that there are still cracks in her armor, so to speak.
Yes. So although that might seem like a trivial detail, I find it important because the last time, because I want her to have learned from her father and will actually improve from it. But
Right.
if they show up, I mean, it is possible that it's just kind of because it is a hard thing to get over if you have been using something as a crutch for a long time. It's a hard thing to let go. So it
Mm-hmm.
could also be that in terms of like that she still focuses on it a little bit because it's going to take some time to get over. So in that, if that's the case, that makes a lot of sense as well and would be much more acceptable and would also make a lot more sense. But yeah, that's the small little idea I had on that. I also like how it has like the music, like the grab, 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 drive right through. It's a neat little aesthetic thing going on. But are you ready?
Yeah. So moving on to the next section
Yes.
of this opening. So the next section is it's we see Team Ranger
Sure.
sitting in
Living room.
Yep.
And Ruby looks so cheerful. John looks so troubled, and Ren is reading a book, and you can't read his expression, and this seems so normal.
Yeah, Jean looks like really like he seemed kind of depressed looking to me in
Okay.
this shot.
For me, it kind of felt like he looked troubled, which similar. And I kind of think it might be that he might feel like how he can contribute to his team, what he can do, um, thinking about a whole bunch of other things as well. Because so when I rewatched Crow talking around the campfire, John was the first one to get like angry and almost leave and was questioning things. So I think he just has a lot to think about and there's a lot going on.
Right. Obviously, he was arguably the most affected by Pierre's death. Even though
Mm,
he didn't witness it, of
yeah.
course, he was probably the one who had the closest relationship to Pierre.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, so yeah, certainly because he has incorporated her armor into
Right.
his weapons and his garb, and also the fact that he
Mm-hmm.
trains with her every night still via video. So yeah, he's still affected in some way, but I think it's for me it felt like he was just trying to think of what he could do, and maybe or like just thinking about all the various things going on because he's a planner, he's a thinker, he's kind of like he's the strategist guy. So it makes sense to me that he's trying to figure out what he can do for his team because he doesn't feel like he can do that much.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. That he was trying to work some stuff out.
Yeah. I mean, it looks to me like he's not like it's less. This probably isn't what you're implying, but I just wanted to clarify that to me
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't look like he's like in tactical thought. It looks like he's struggling with something.
Yeah, but I think that can go under the category of because it for me it kind of feels like it's what he can do.
Right. Like as the song says, everything's bad. To summarize. Um
Yeah.
and it's true that John is the best tactical thinker, maybe bar Ruby, whatever.
Yeah.
Um so maybe he is seeing like the true nature of the situation that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's really hitting him more than everyone else how serious the
Oh.
situation they're in is.
Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it, considering like Nora when she pops down, she's like also really happy, like boop, and then
The
Crow.
opposite of a tactical thinker.
Yeah. So that's an interesting parallel of like if those lines are directly at more of John than anyone else in that picture because it seems like he's the only one that's troubled.
Yeah.
And then when they even cut shots to Crow, he's kind of like, "What are these freaking kids?
Yeah.
Like, man, they are not taking this seriously." Like he just looks at them with a face of just I don't care, and he sighs like, "My goodness gracious."
Do you know? Okay, I was trying to think of a single word to describe the emotion that Crow was feeling, but I could not think of a word. And
Mm-hmm.
so the best I could come up with was like mock exasperation, but that's two words.
Yeah.
Tell me if you can think of a single. It's not important.
Yeah. I mean, I like exacerbated.
Exa- exasperated.
Exasperated. I like that. It's kind of
Yes.
like he's not fed up, but he kind of just looks at these group of kids and he's kind of just going, "Oh no. This is what I have."
But like he's not there's like only the smallest degree of exasperation.
Yes.
He's like, oh, you kids.
I mean, I think he just kind of looks at them and he's just kind of going, "Oh boy." Says they do not seem prepared. And the reason the reason I say that is because after he sighs, he looks to Oscar, who we know is also Osmond. So it looks like, and then Nora also looks at him. So to me, it felt like they were looking almost for guidance. That is why I think he kind of looks at them in a way of they don't seem prepared, like they don't really have a plan, like the guy who knows what and can maybe do something.
Okay, for me, this sequence is very not serious. This particular portion of it is very, like, it's almost playful. I mean, obviously before that we kind of skipped over it, but just to, mention it. Obviously, Nora drops down from like the ceiling or something, or she's like hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And and she just like boops Crow or whatever.
She's a goofball.
Yeah, yep. She is.
We know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to me, what I interpreted Crow's like not like legitimate concern, but just like being sort of playful and, like I said, mock exasperation.
Okay.
And then he does look to Osmond, but to me that's sort of like it's sort of like they're the two like real adults in the room, and he's like he like rolls his eyes and like looks at Osmond like, seriously.
Okay, I thought it was a more of what do we do next.
Okay. I mean, I can see that interpretation. I'm trying to imagine it.
Okay. And I think that it's kind of pairs well with the response of like flipping over the cane and be like, yeah. Like flip it over, smirk on his face, like, yeah. Like first, Oscar just kind of looks down. He's like, I don't know. And then it's like, but no, yeah, we can do this. Or like confidence. I don't know. That's how I felt. It was kind of silliness, barring John, who is seemingly the one who is really thinking things over. That's why I felt it was like he's thinking things over. It's like everyone else is kind of they're either doing recreational reading, having fun, having a good time, playing around, or they're really trying to come up with a problem. And I think it almost shows the sides of what the group is dealing with in terms of like coping with what's going on, but either in a based on activity or based on just having fun or just really trying to get through it. Because we know all these characters do have depth to them, and I think they could all go through these different patterns that they show. So I think it almost just gives a shot of like all the potential different thoughts and who's really and who like what's the predominant one for like all of them.
Right. Yeah. Much like the first four quick cuts of the characters sort of framed their mood. This sort of does the same thing in the context of all four of them being together, and then also Crow and Osmond.
Yeah.
Osmond being, like as you mentioned, sort of ready / getting ready to lead again.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have the dual Oscar Ozpen because you have Oscar who he like, I don't know, I'm a kid, I just got into this, and then but then when Osmond's face comes across the screen, he like flips over and gets confident. So I think it's that he gains confidence, I guess, because like he has someone that's helping out, and that Osmond might be the guy leading the show and such, or like they're working together in some way to make it work.
Osmond's spooky ghost head floating across the screen, just in case you forgot.
Just in case you forgot.
That Oscar was Osmond.
Yeah, if the cane wasn't enough. But yeah, okay. Is there anything else you want to mention before we get into the lyrics?
I think that's about it for that. What? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then there's the next transition.
Yeah.
Which is
the zooming in onto the cane.
Yes.
Are we getting to that now, or do you want to go over the lyrics first? Because I think that those are two distinct elements, or at least how I set it up is that those are two distinct blocks.
Yeah, we can talk about the lyrics.
Okay, so helpless. I can't remember. Doomed.
Helpless
there
and
we
doomed,
go.
and there's no way to win.
Goals unachievable, faith running thin. Lost and forlorn, impossible odds. That's when you'll learn you've been messing with gods. All right, breaking that down. Helpless and doomed, no way to win. That is cut with the people on the couch. I find that hilarious
I
because
really love the contrast
yes,
between like I was saying, the playfulness of this whole segment, and then just the constant the maintained bleakness of these lyrics.
oh yeah,
It's a great contrast.
it's like look at all these happy. Oh look, John's the only one that looks like
Ah, yes,
mildly
they're
upset.
all doomed.
Yeah, they're helpless, doomed, and they have no way to win. Uh, Goals unachievable, faith running thin. Faith running thin is when Crow sighs, which is why I also thought he was like, gosh darn it, these kids, they're not ready.
Okay, yeah, in tandem with that line, if you were considering it like that,
Yes.
that makes it a little more plausible to me.
Yeah. Then goals unachievable is on Crow's face, which is just, sure. He's got bad luck. I imagine his goals are hard to achieve.
Poor
Also,
guy.
their goals in general probably not exactly hard to achieve. Um, Lost and forlorn, impossible odds. That's when they look at Oscar, which is why I think they're looking for guidance as well. It's like, hey, what do we do?
Also, Oscar is of course lost
Yes, as well.
because he's very much been ripped out of his comfortable world and thrust into the forefront of this conflict.
Yes, and then that's when you'll learn you've been messing with gods. That's an interesting word choice.
Yeah, that's definitely the most interesting lyric of this stanza.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said stanza.
Yes.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I that's really interesting. And so, in order to get a little bit more background on this, I went back to I already mentioned this, but the Crow campfire,
I also rewatched that.
yeah, conversation where he pretty much talks about if you listen to odds, there are two gods that are real. You got the god of light who made a bunch of stuff, and you had the god of darkness who broke all his brother's stuff. Oh, by the way, they're siblings. Um, and how the brother made Grimm, and how
The
together they
Dark
made
Brother.
humanity. Yes, sorry, that's a
Specifically.
very good distinction. Yeah, the younger dark brother made Grimm, while and then together they made humanity. Um, so it makes you wonder when you've been messing with gods. So humanity are the creation of both gods, and then you have Grimm, the creation of one of them. Besides the fact that timeline's Grimm existing before humanity, which is hilarious, um,
Yeah, it's a little funny to think about.
it is, but it's also really neat. Um, but besides that, it makes you wonder what are they referring to when they mean gods? Are they talking about the creations of these gods, or that you are messing with forces beyond? Like, do they mean that they are messing with actual gods, or that they are messing with things as power, like that humans would look at and be like, man, that's godly?
Or even the plans of gods.
Plans of gods.
Well, like you're messing you're messing with gods, like you're messing with what gods are intending. And
So, an element of fate?
well, no. Let me just reiterate that. So during that conversation, Crow says, if you believe Ozpin, only two of
Yes,
them are real.
correct.
So I just want to reiterate that Ozpin confirms this in directly through Crow.
Yes.
And, if we are to believe Ozpin, and, I think in terms of this kind of thing, he's been proven right in the past because, the maidens, etc.,
Sure.
he talked about that. And then they're real, surprise, magic,
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know if that completely proves his, um,
I
like,
believe him.
makes his word golden, but it certainly helps.
Right. But, yeah, so, if we're to take these gods as
Yes.
actual literal figures who do exist or did exist at one
Sure.
point, um, what do you think about that?
I mean, it would make sense if some sort of divine figure. I mean, so that it's interesting because that conversation paired. Not many people are religious these days, and that story kind of uh, parallels well with the story of creation that is in, I believe, the Old Testament. Essentially, that oh hey, look, after these
Yep.
days, like things were
First chapter,
made.
Genesis.
Yeah. But anyway, so I don't know. It kind of parallels well with that. A very quick thought is that okay, so they mentioned back to the fairy tale in the very beginning. There are these two brothers. If you ever heard of them, the Grimm brothers made a lot of fairy tales.
Brothers Grimm, yes.
I kind of have a feeling like those two brothers are supposed to represent those two the Grimm brothers only because of all the fairy tales they made and how many stories and elements of RWBY and Remnant are based on fairy tales.
Yeah.
Small aside, doesn't actually really matter to the conversation, but I guess it's possible that those two existed, but I don't know if they have much leeway or sway in what's going on now.
And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that Crow said, I think it was in that campfire conversation in Volume 4, I think he mentioned something about how that the gods had abandoned the world of Remnant. So I don't know if that answers your question about what kind of sway they have now. But
if he said that, then that's very interesting. It actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I guess it kind of leaves a lot open as to what went on, because obviously there's a lot going on there probably.
Yeah, probably. Anything else you have to say about the fact that they said the word gods?
A couple things.
Sure.
So, I mean, this is kind of an obvious point, I think, but what relationship do you think? I mean, while we're considering this creation story, while we're considering the dichotomy between good and evil,
sure.
What do you think of that and its relationship between Oz and Salem? Because it seems that, go on.
So, you just said gods abandoned the world of Remnant.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess the best example I would then say is that one of humanity and Grimm were essentially what were created, among other things.
And everything else.
So, we know that Ozpin was, or at least it has been said that Ozpin is the wizard man.
Yep.
So, in that element, he's arguably potentially has the power to create things or something. So maybe he is some sort of connection to the good guy god or the god of light, while maybe Salem is some connection to the god of dark. Considering the god of dark created the Grimm, it seems like Salem has some connection to the Grimm. But after watching a video that had aura and semblance and such, that talked about it was a World of Remnant video that came out in the second DVD that I didn't know about until found it on YouTube. The very last line is that, and sometimes they can make you more than a man, and it just has Ozpin sipping tea. Now this makes me think that his
really
super duper powers are potentially just a really crazy semblance that has been built up over time. And the reason I think this is because, as far as I can tell, his semblance is transferring power or life or something. And it makes me think that if he can transfer it, that means he can build it up and then just keep giving it to people. And he can, and because, as I said, he can split it up. He can divide it. He can transfer some of it. So it feels like, in that case, his powers is almost like a commodity, not a commodity, but it's something that you can bestow upon others. So yeah, I kind of feel like it's actually just a crazy semblance of, you can store and distribute power. So if you can keep transferring your power to other people, and potentially with your consciousness as well, you could gain an absurd amount of power and eventually give it away.
That's a really interesting theory, and I just wanted to say that I interpreted that differently.
Okay.
I really like what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I interpreted specifically that same line of the Aura World Remnant video.
Yeah.
Is the last line is what is the last line exactly?
Last line is something along the lines of, and sometimes it can make you more than a man.
Right. So
more than just a man, I think.
Right. And what that sort of implied to me, as Ozpin sips his tea, intentionally but that's none of my concern. What it implied to me was that Ozpin was
beyond that?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Perhaps not a man at all. or maybe he was a man and now he's
Okay.
not. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
in that case, you asked me what my idea or my thoughts were on Salem and Oz's connection. What are yours? Or not connection, their connection to the old gods, not Cthulhu.
Well, I think one thing that I just wanted to clarify that was like a preliminary thought, but that I don't no longer believe
Okay.
is that I think one of the first thoughts you can come to is that, like, well, what if Ozpin and Salem like were the gods originally? I think that's a very natural first thought.
Okay.
I no longer believe that because I mean it's a first thought,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean and they're both strong,
Yeah.
but I don't think that they're strong enough to be gods.
Okay. I don't think we know enough about their abilities to
I mean, yeah,
even
sure,
bring
but
that into question.
I mean in terms of Crow's explanation of the gods, the like the light brother was literally bringing all of life into creation.
Yeah.
Created every living thing in the world.
Sure.
I think that's out of scope of Oz's power.
Very much so, considering if you want the best shot of his powers are either his fight with Cinder, the fact that he can transfer them, or the fact that the maiden powers were his and they seem to have very neat control over the elements, which in its own way is powerful because it seems like they can almost create things out of thin air. But I have a feeling it's not that simple.
Right. And also, like, initially you're thinking, well, Salem could be a brother. But I feel like that's a little,
I don't think
not really.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a stretch.
Yeah, I think it's a super duper stretch. If the gods have abandoned the world,
right, especially if Crow does say that.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure he does. So, for me personally, it's hard to predict what exactly the relationship is because obviously everything's hard to predict in RWBY, first of all. Second of all, we can't even really be sure what the truth is after, because, what we're basing this off of is just
a trail.
Crow's hearsay about the gods being
That's true.
real, first of all.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's unreasonable to think that, assuming the god story is real, which, I feel like we can, that Ozpin is somehow due to the influence of one of the, like, possibly a creation, or I don't know, due to the influence of the good brother, and then Salem is due to the influence of the bad brother.
That's actually an interesting thing to bring up because I don't see why they couldn't both be a creation of both, considering together they made humanity and Ozpin. I don't see why they couldn't be some sort of weird branch off of that, considering it seems like, clearly they both have the ability to choose.
So basically they could have both been human at one point?
That, or they are still under the guidelines of human and not divine.
Or
they are more close to
some...
humanity than divine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not either.
And it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so being on the topic of religion in the world of Remnant.
Okay.
There's just one more thing that I wanted to mention.
Okay.
That's like, sort of bugged me for a while.
Okay.
And it's about, so Crow and RWBY, you may have noticed, both have a common symbol.
Yes.
Which is the slanted cross thing.
Yep.
And obviously we can see it in this opening. It's Crow's necklace.
Yes.
And it's also like on RWBY's outfit somewhere.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly.
I'm pretty sure it's the pins for her cape.
Yeah, yeah. So
what's up with that?
Yeah, what's up with that?
I have a feeling that is directly connected to their the character that they are based off in fantasy lore. Do I know what that is? No, but it's either that or it's some sort of...
Well,
yes.
Okay, I think RWBY is Red Riding Hood.
Yes.
Safe to say.
Yes.
I don't remember her being super religious.
I don't know if it has to be super religious. I think.
Okay, to me, it's very obvious that this is, or what this screams to me is it's a religious symbol because it looks like a religious symbol because it's a cross.
Okay.
I mean, it's a not cross, but it's a
Yes.
cross
Okay.
to me.
Okay.
So it screams religious symbol to me,
Sure.
which is confusing.
Okay.
Do you not think that?
I mean,
Because
I don't.
there's nothing that would lead us not to cut you off,
Yeah.
but there is nothing that would explicitly lead us to believe that it is. That's just what I feel like it is.
Okay. I mean, I don't necessarily. It's possible, similar to the moon, it might be something that is explained later as to what the importance of that symbol is. I remember when I first saw it, oh, it's kind of a cross, but I never really gave it too much mind because it never reflected anything in the characters that seemed to matter. So, which is why
Sure.
I kind of felt like it might be just a part of aesthetic that is more to show off what they are based off than anything else.
Or sort of like what you were saying, but on the opposite end of the spectrum about how it's like the moon.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be an aesthetic thing
Yes.
that does not have a real meaning.
I have a feeling.
Because it's in the original Ruby Red trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
As part of her character design.
Yes.
And it don't think they had the plot fleshed out then.
I have a feeling they weren't too badly off back then, but who knows? Who's to say?
And I mean, the moon was also in that trailer, presumably also shattered. So
it was.
It wouldn't shock me if it was just purely aesthetic.
Okay. I think there is a reason for it. I just don't know what it is. It, in my opinion, is either it's to show the a part of the character, like maybe what they're based off, or it's something that will matter later.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that Crow and Raven are based off of, God bless this attempt at pronouncing Norse mythological characters, or / remembering their names. Hugnin and Mugnir, Odin's ravens.
Oh, that's interesting. That makes a lot of sense.
Because birds.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
that makes Ozpin like pseudo Odin, which is kind of like he's the leader.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why most of these characters can't have multiple draws from multiple fantasy or mythological.
And also, just continuing off of that, they're like Odin's eyes, and also like Crow's symbol is an eye.
I guess.
And then in Volume 4, when after Tyrion poisons Crow and reports back to Salem, Salem says, "The last eye is blinded."
Oh, okay.
Not in that voice because that's not what she sounds like, but that's the vibe.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
So I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Okay, that's interesting. I like this idea.
I wonder if I got the names of those ravens right.
I don't.
Probably not.
It's fine. You tried your best.
I did.
You did. Alrighty. Would you like to continue to the zooming in, or do you have anything else you would like to say?
Yeah. I guess we could just table it there. I mean, I was just gonna say that it's totally possible that that religion, like other religions, do exist in that they are, or Ruby and Crow are potentially practitioners of that. I don't think that's far fetched.
No, it's possible.
It's just the only problem I would have with that is that if Crow knew that there was another religion that was the only one that was real, it wouldn't make much sense to continue wearing the old religion's symbols except out of habit.
Yeah. I don't really know what to say at that.
But that's all I wanted to say about that. Okay. I was just thinking about it.
Got it. Yeah, I don't think we know enough about
absolutely
Ruby's family and
the religious lore
of Remnant to really state if these symbols are related. But I think since you point that out, I think that's going to make me want to look out more for those kind of symbols that might have some sort of religious.
They don't come up very often.
No.
The only other time that I can think of is in volume 4 character short.
Okay.
The fight takes place in front of a church.
Yes. But that also could just be the fact that it's a town and maybe they had a church.
Right, but I mean that just points to the fact that there is religion.
Okay. I mean, I would believe that there is religion. Also, one thing I want to point out is the fact that it kind of looks like a cross might not mean it's religious. It's simply that our interpretation from a society that has like
I
these
mean,
stereotypically religious things. I'm not going to say that it's blatantly wrong. I'm just saying that's potentially not even related.
that's true, but I don't think that they would do that.
I don't know, man.
Okay. All
But
right,
anyway,
now we can move on.
huzzah! Zooming in into the gears of the cane, which
Such a cool transition.
Yeah.
I think you were going to say exactly that.
Yeah. And then you just have this guy behind a desk, and Watts's nice smug face appears. I just like his expression. He's like, haha. And then he's like, wait a minute. No, no, no. You did not do that right. And then he seems like he's being held at knife tentacle point. So whoever this guy is, he does not look to be in a good scenario.
Okay, just to expand on that.
Sure.
So, this is, I think, one of the two new characters that we see in this trailer.
Yes.
/ opening. And to me, what I thought when I first saw this was that this seems to fit the character of the professor of Haven, the headmaster of Haven, based on what little we saw of him at the very end of Volume 4, when we saw Watts having tea, and he was like, saying I'm always said you were very accommodating,
okay,
etc. Just because, given the context of this, and I think the colors match. I'm not quite sure, but
okay,
given the context, because to me, what this scene looks like to me,
sure,
is that Watts is looming over this figure.
I agree.
Literally, he is.
Yes.
And the ropes, tentacles, which
Sure.
we will talk about.
Sure.
What I think that they're like symbolically representing to me are like marionette strings. That's what they look like to me.
Oh.
And so it looks to me like, or what it looked like to me, is that Watts is playing puppet master here and controlling who I assume is Leo, because based on what we've seen, he is.
Interesting. To me, it kind of felt like that those daggers, tentacle things were more of just, more of a threat. It seemed like hey, you better listen to him.
Definitely pretty threatening.
Kind of, to me, more than a marionette thing, although the positioning of Watts does make you think of a puppet and marionette scenario. On the idea of him being Leo, that is definitely not. I didn't know who that was when I first saw him. So, I can kind of see it simply just because of the hair of that man's head. Kind of looks like mane. That's about as far as I'm going to go on that, because that's about all the connection I can really see in that, because I do not remember who Watts had tea with. So I do not believe I can really say much more about that, besides I see what you're saying, and it does make sense.
Right. I mean, it's not like we know about any other major characters that are going to be introduced.
No.
Or none have been hinted at that I can think of.
No.
Oh yeah, and to me, what those tentacle things looked like, what I'm thinking is that, are they Watts's weapon? Because we haven't seen Watts.
That's true. I was kind of thinking
Fight
it's
or anything.
either... Yeah, I was thinking it was a weapon of some kind.
Right, it looks like a weapon.
It does look like a weapon, or like a weird semblance, which I don't even know how you would get into
I don't know about that, but...
Yeah. I don't know, but a weapon...
I guess it could be a semblance.
It could be a really cool semblance.
That would be neat.
Yeah, just like kind of like Doc Ock, except a bunch of stabby whips.
I guess it's not that far-fetched.
It's not that far-fetched, but I like the idea of it being a weapon. It's just, in that case, it seems so fluid. It's like, dang. Okay, so you had, I'm forgetting her name, but...
Ilya.
No, Good Witch.
Glinda.
So she could do telekinesis stuff. So I don't see it being overly far-fetched to be able to control like a whip with a spear at the end, or a dagger thing at the end. So that's why weapon seems like it makes a lot of sense to
Right,
me. Like,
and I said Ilya because her weapon is kind of like that.
yeah, but we've already seen her weapon be like a very stabby, like whip kind of thing. It's not, but it's not the same. So yeah, so the type of weapon makes sense. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I'm just there's a precedent for stabby whips.
Yeah, yes, and then also the ability to like move it around via a telekinesis like thing is also precedent, and also you can go on the Pyrrha's um, semblance of polarity and like controlling weapons and like that are made of metal. So
or Penny also had a
yes,
sure. Obviously has a similar thing with her fine control of her weapons.
this is true.
You know, because they're attached with strings in her case,
Yes.
but you know, there's a precedent.
Okay, so
Granted, these are also attached with string things.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really actually not as dissimilar as I thought.
yeah, so yeah, a really neat weapon.
And potentially, it looks like Watts's
It could be
to me because, you know, he's there and
yeah, I can see it being Watts's. Okay. After that, you have Hazel and Adam. Hazel just standing there, kind of not caring as far as I can tell, and then Adam whips out the sword, slightly.
Yeah, pretty much just a still shot of like or a slow pan or whatever of them.
Combined with the lyrics, there's one interesting thing to mention. But moving on to before, because we still have a little bit more of this stanza to go.
Well,
okay.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this like spells out where Hazel is.
Yes.
Right now, because
that's true.
This is the first time we've seen him in a while, and the last time we saw him, obviously, was his cameo appearance.
Yes.
In Volume 4.
Yeah.
When he smashes the ticket machine. Yeah. And he's great.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
And so, I mean, assuming that this opening is not lying to us, which I doubt it is in terms of this, then we know that Hazel is with Adam, or working with Adam, or managing Adam, or whatever.
Something. They have a connection of some sort.
And hopefully he plays into the story of this volume because I am excited for Hazel as a character.
Well, he shows up twice. He shows up again later.
No, he does show up. He shows up again on the intro, which is why I have high hopes.
Yeah, so there's a pretty good shot he's coming up because Ilya shows up again. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So, next part, Blake and Son just at the menagerie kind of port kind of thing, or I guess just city in general. It's just near water, and they're kind of just
coastal. Be the adjective.
Coastal. There you go. And they're kind of just not lounging around, but kind of just hanging out and just kind of look at each other. And then they seem to get a little bit sad after. They look at each other and then they kind of get a little bit concerned, or I don't know. I kind of felt that after they looked at each other, they kind of got a little bit like disappointed or like sad, like, oh no.
Yes, they both looked downcast to me.
Yes.
Like they were like, they're just downcast about something. Which is sort of a contrast to the whole menagerie is like this bright, bustling beach.
Yeah. It's pretty
big. We zoom out and
yeah.
We can see, what we've already seen of menagerie. We can see the stands that are sort of underwater or partially in water and, on the wooden walkways, and we can see that it's overcrowded, as we know.
Yes.
Those are the major things I get from that.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of just, oh, hey, there's this bustling town that's a little bit overcrowded, but it seems like it's pretty nice.
And Blake and Son are, no surprise, struggling with
something.
Their plan, presumably, to get the White Fang back on track. Because at the end of Volume 4, of course, that was the plan.
Oh, yeah, Son's
presumably that is still the plan.
Last thing.
I assume it will not be easy, given all the Ilya fighting that we've seen.
Yeah.
In the Blake trailer, and then again in this, later in this opening. And we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Okay. Anything else you want to mention before we talk about the lyrics related to those images?
Nope.
Okay. Send on your grim.
In.
Thank you.
Yeah, whatever.
Send in your grim. Tear off my limb. Strike me with lightning, with bolts of lightning. I won't die. And
Nice.
this is where optimism comes in.
Yes, this is where the sentiment scale of the song starts tilting upwards.
Yes. So
it goes from depressed to resolute, I guess.
Yeah, determination and doesn't matter what you throw at me, we'll be fine kind of attitude. So send in your Grim. I think this is related to. So this shows up when Watts. It's like, haha. When he shows up. So we know that he's with Salem. So, and we have mentioned how, maybe Salem has a connection to Grim. So maybe something like that. And also, I think in particular, it might be with the Veil incident where they brought in Grim and kind of like let Grim kind of show up due to bad emotion, negative emotions, and stuff like that. So I think it's just like one of the more classical examples of something going bad in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have tear off my limb. So I'm pretty sure when it says my limb, that is when Adam flashes out his sword. And if you wanna, there's only one person that we have seen cut off a limb of someone else, and that is Adam cutting off Yang's arm.
Yeah.
So I think that is what that is directly referencing.
Mm-hmm.
Strike me with bolts of lightning. That's just Nora. It's just Nora.
What's on the screen when that line is being said?
It's Adam and Hazel just standing there. So I think
okay,
I think
still
it was
there. Okay.
So I think it was just a general kind of, oh hey, these bad things, like the one related to Adam, like wow,
okay,
I cut off your arm. Striking with bolts of lightning. Just Nora, and since Nora's part of the other group, it kind of makes sense. It's like, oh hey, mention these like list of bad things that has happened to these groups of people, and it's still like we have persevered, and we will not be killed by these things. In fact, we might even be stronger as a result. In the case of Nora, hell yeah. In the case of Yang, we will see. And then Grim, it's how you learn. The huntsmen fight Grim, and they learn. So you can learn from all these things that are supposedly going to kill you. I don't know.
Right.
Felt like, to me, it was like, what doesn't kill you make you stronger.
Right. What this whole passage mostly sounds like to me is it's just like a general challenge, I feel, to the antagonists, the antagonists that we know about, based on Send in Your Grim being a call out to Salem, or Team Salem,
sure,
presumably. Tear off a limb, obviously being Adam.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense is the strike me with bolts of lightning. Yeah. You're right to think that one of the first things that comes to mind is Nora, obviously because of her semblance.
Yes.
The only other thing that we've seen use lightning is the Fall Maiden.
Yeah.
In her fight.
So
that doesn't really make sense in terms of a call out in that context. So I don't know if it's that, but it could just be like a general thing.
Sure.
But that's what it mostly seems like to me. Like it's like a challenge.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing. We will survive.
Yeah, I won't die.
Yeah. And while I Won't Die was being played, it was Blake's son and showing off Menagerie. I'm not really sure what the connection there is.
Oh, they won't die. That's reassuring.
I guess. I guess it's saying that we're not going to have deaths, but I don't believe that. You were like...
No, specifically Blake and son won't die.
Oh.
So that's good to know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, for
Got
sure.
it. Oh, okay. Yeah. My initial reaction was just like, wow, that's awesome. When I just heard, like, I won't die. It's like, oh, yeah, all these bad things. Like, oh, I won't die. It's like, dang, that's great. Okay,
yes.
I'm
again,
liking where this is going.
The optimism kicking in.
Yes.
The name of the song, obviously, is Triumph. The Triumph.
The
Triumph. So we're getting there.
So we're getting there. Anything else you want to say about this before we move on to another new character?
No, I think that part was pretty straightforward. All
right. You have Cinder staring down this girl with a Nevermore tattoo.
Is it a Nevermore?
I think it's a Nevermore. I'm pretty sure it's a Nevermore.
I mean, it's definitely a bird.
Yeah. I remember like trying to like look in and get a little bit closer, and I think I saw a kind of like mask-ish shaped thing, so I thought it was a Nevermore. I could be incorrect.
I can't say that I looked too closely at it specifically.
Okay.
other
is,
than
mm-hmm.
yeah, bird definitely.
It's certainly a bird. So I could be incorrect in that, and I don't know if it's necessarily important. But
right,
my first thought is when I saw this girl, is this the Spring Maiden?
It
because I didn't know who this was, and the only reason is like, wait, you're staring down what we know to be the Fall Maiden. So
right,
are you
yeah.
the Spring Maiden?
We don't. Yeah, obviously we don't know.
Also, she kind of looked like a bandit, and they're in a camp.
Right, we don't know. We don't know. Obviously, this character, new character, the framing makes it seem like. It makes it seem like it could be that she's a maiden because obviously Cinder is the Fall Maiden.
Yeah.
And also given what we learned from the Volume 5 trailer, that Raven knows where the Spring Maiden is.
Yes.
Given the next pairing that we see, Raven being among them.
Yeah.
If that grouping is associated, which I would assume they are since the location doesn't change.
Yeah.
That sort of lends weight to that theory, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Also, Cinder's as smug as ever, and that new person looks like she's ready to go.
Yes.
Looks like she's ready to throw down.
What I wrote down is also smug.
Smug for the new girl? Or
oh
Cinder?
no, for Cinder. For Cinder.
Yeah. No,
sorry, I'm just flipping the page to see what
no, you're fine.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. So she kind of like drifts across the screen a little bit. Don't know if you noticed that, but I definitely did notice it.
Oh, yeah, they start getting closer together.
Specifically, the new character moves. I don't think Cinder moves.
She moves a little bit.
But
they both move toward each other a little bit.
It's not important at all. But, well, I mean.
But what is important, well, beside the conjecture if she might be the Spring Maiden, is that then suddenly a raven sweeps in. I'm going to say that this is a raven because of who shows up immediately after.
Right. And I was just going to say that it looks like the new character is like the emotion that I got from her face was that she's arising to meet a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to say about that.
Okay.
But yeah, we can move on to the next pair.
All right. Whoosh.
Whoosh.
In comes a raven, and out comes Raven and Yang.
Raven and Yang.
And if you really, really were questioning if they weren't, if you were just wondering, they're not related, look at that hair curl. Look at that hair curl at the top of their head. Look at their eyes. You just know.
Okay, sorry, I was just looking down at my notes and I just remembered there's one other thing that I wrote down about the previous pairing that I just wanted to bring up quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
The new character, and this isn't that important actually, but like looking at her eye color, they kind of look silver. I don't think it's actually.
Blue.
Yeah, are they blue?
Blue.
I could just be colorblind.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not colorblind, but like when I was watching this section of the video, I was in like a bright place, so.
Okay. Pretty darn sure blue.
Okay. I mean, I'm not assuming that she has silver eyes or anything.
Okay.
But like, I just wanted to say.
Okay.
They looked kind of silver.
I see.
But I mean, they could be blue.
Pretty sure they're blue.
Didn't have the best vision of the video at that time.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway,
back to Raven and Yang.
Raven and Yang. Speaking of smug looks, Raven also looks pretty dang smug.
You think she looked smug?
I did.
I thought she looked happy.
Nah.
I thought she looked really happy.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was like, wow, I've never seen Raven this cheerful.
Interesting. No, when she was kind of just like looking over her shoulder, just kind of like, heh. I don't know. I found it smug.
I mean, so it can be kind of hard to tell sometimes, and I can see how you can see with the ambiguity of like smiling over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't interpret it like that, but I think that's a valid interpretation.
Yeah. So, what do you think about her being cheerful?
That is a good question. She could either be happy about the way that things are going, or if Yang is there, she could be happy to see Yang.
Interesting, because Yang doesn't look too happy.
Yeah, no, Yang does not. She looks...
Yeah, Yang's clutching her...
She looks uncomfortable. That's what I said.
Interesting.
I think she looks vaguely uncomfortable.
Okay. Let's see. I thought she looked bothered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that she was a bit bothered, which is fair, because she doesn't, as far as we know, like pretty much one of the more recent interactions she's had with her mother is, I'm not going to protect you anymore.
What do you think about this pairing?
Uh,
Because in the context of, based on our commentary on the Yang trailer,
yeah.
it seemed like based on that trailer and also based on, excuse me, the end of Volume 4, I
Mm-hmm.
think we were both assuming that Yang was going to RWBY.
RWBY.
Do you think she is still?
Oh, that's an interesting point to bring up. This does challenge that. Considering the background doesn't change, it's still that camp.
Right. I mean, it could just be obviously because they're mother and daughter.
Yes. I mean, I do think that this shows that they will meet up,
I would hope.
but I don't know
It'd be
how.
pretty awful if they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because Yang could go to either, and I
Yeah,
don't
you're
know
right.
if that what the order could be. Cause
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
like, and I don't know because they certainly Yang is going to run into her mother, and I think you can tell that based off this one scene. It's just when and where is in question, and I don't know if it's enough to argue that she's not going to RWBY,
Okay. Yeah.
but it does challenge that idea in a way that someone could make an argument to say that maybe she's going to Raven instead, which I don't know why she would want to do that.
Right. Me neither.
So, uh, anyway, anything else you want to mention about the two? I just kind of felt that I found it interesting that Yang was kind of clutching her right arm, or what was her right arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why I felt like bothered, or but when she looked up after, she's like, because at first she's kind of like just clutching her arm, looking down. When she looks up, it feels like there's a bit more oomph there.
When you say oomph, what exactly do you mean?
I've said this word a few times, but a little bit more determination, or just kind of.
Oh, okay. In that, I wasn't sure if you were like using it as an accent to modify the negative emotion or as a separate.
No, no, no. I feel like that she is not necessarily stealing herself, but more prepared.
Maybe. Do you think it's specifically her arm that's bothering her? Because you said she's grabbing her.
Yeah, I think it might just be showing the insecurities she now has around her arm.
Okay.
Because it is brand new, it is different. And as I mentioned earlier about potentially the red eyes, like maybe her not being completely over and not being completely ready to go. I think that there's still some issues, and I think that stuff surrounding her right arm is going to play a role. I could be wrong, though.
It's possible. It just seems like a weird just juxtaposition to bring up the arm thing again, like when she's like across from her. Well, I guess it's not. Never mind.
Well, she's not across. They're facing away from each other.
I mean, on this, they're across
they're
from
being
each other.
compared.
Yeah.
In some way. I don't know. I just kind of felt like it shows both of the characters, and to me, it showed Yang being a little bit more insecure.
I was gonna say it's a weird juxtaposition, but upon saying that, I realized that it's kind of not, because we know that one of the things is that, Raven maybe could have potentially prevented Yang from losing her arm if she had come to her aid during the Battle of Beacon, but of course she didn't.
Which she said she wasn't going to.
Right. Yeah. So I mean that could be a reason if she's thinking about the arm, because
I guess
her mom is partially responsible.
Ooh, I wouldn't say that.
I mean,
I don't think it's Raven's fault that her
I'm not
her
saying
daughter blindly charged in and lost an arm.
I'm not saying that it's her fault, but if Raven could have prevented it, then she's not completely free of blame.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure why Raven is suddenly omnipotent, but I mean she did save Yang that one time, so I guess that does put in the question the idea of maybe she could.
I mean, I'm not saying that she's omnipotent. I'm just saying that she keeps a close eye on the people she cares about, including her daughter, obviously, otherwise she wouldn't have noticed, that Yang needed saving at that particular moment. While on the train, it seems incredulous to me that she would not also notice such an incredibly major event as the Battle of Beacon, and specifically because Yang is there.
Okay. I
So
see what you're saying.
I find it completely unbelievable that she was not aware of the situation at the very least.
Okay.
And I think it totally would have been within her power to
do something about it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. But would it be in her best interest to do that? I don't think it would.
All right, Raven.
Haha.
I mean, the whole thing is that, you know, they're supposed to be family, right? So
Yeah, I mean, but she did say, I'm not going to protect you anymore. And that's a reasonable thing. You do need to grow up.
is it reasonable?
Yes.
You really think so?
Yes. The world of Remen is very dangerous, and if you want a pointer, look at the Yang trailer. A freaking Ursa just shows up out of the forest.
Yeah, yeah,
and she
yeah.
has to
Okay,
fight
sure.
it.
Yeah, but Yang could have straight up died. Like there was no guarantee that she wasn't going to die. And like Raven could have prevented that, but she chose not to.
Okay. I mean, I see.
I mean, it's not like
uh,
it's not like an RPG where you can just re-roll another character.
no, it's a life or death scenario, but that's also part of living in this dangerous world called Remnant. You could die at any turn. The occupation Yang is going for is huntress.
Yeah, I understand.
Your life is at stake at all times.
I understand, but not saving your daughter seems beyond callous to me.
Okay, I don't think I see what you're saying, but I also see Raven's position of I can't hold your hand all the time.
I think that's kind of an extreme version of an I can't hold your hand all the time. To me, I can't hold your hand all the time is like, all right, take out your own college loans. Not like I won't save you if you're going to literally die.
I mean, but she did already. She did save her life when she was probably about to get killed.
Yeah, once.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but I'm not saying that there's like
I mean,
you should like measure the value of your children's lives like that.
Okay, I mean, I think it's for me. I think it's fair. Raven's like, okay, I saved your life once. I shouldn't be having to do this all the time. Like, you should be able to protect yourself. Like, okay, she could have died. I'm not gonna argue that. She does get her arm cut off. Fortunately, she did not die. But I don't necessarily see why Raven, although she is Yang's mother, if she really can't take it and live on her own and has to get her hand held all the time, she wouldn't be able to last as a huntress. You wouldn't be able to.
I mean it's true that there are potential lessons to be learned obviously in not being being left to your own devices all the time.
Yes.
Personally, I just think that especially from a family perspective, in a matronly perspective, that it's not at all an appropriate strategy for dealing with your child by risking their life to teach them that lesson. Like I said, I think it's beyond callous of a person to do that.
Okay. I believe we are on opposing sides of this view.
Yes, that got a little heated.
It did.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
If that startled you.
No, it did not. I mean, I can certainly understand why you would feel strongly about, oh, hey, look, this person just almost let their daughter die. But I see it as I have warned you that your life is in danger doing this. I'm going to help you this one time, but I will not help you next time as reasonable enough. But anyway, let's table it for now, and let us continue.
Okay. What were we talking about?
We were talking about how, well, we were comparing that one scene.
Right, yeah, Yang and Raven.
And that is pretty much essentially where we were. And now we can start talking about the lyrics in relation to that scene.
Okay.
All right. This is my favorite line. The battle seems unwinnable, but all we need is a miracle. Holy crud, if you want an optimistic line. Holy crud, that is so optimistic, and for some reason, I love it.
Do you really think that's optimistic?
The only thing you need to win is a miracle?
That
Miracles don't come by easily.
Yeah,
that's why they're miracles.
That's not saying that they're gonna get a miracle. It's saying that their situation is so bad they need a miracle to win. Seems kind of pessimistic to me.
The battle seems unwinnable.
Yeah.
But all we need is a miracle. I don't know. I kind of feel like that they almost believe that it will happen. That they have enough faith that even though it seems dire, we will be fine. We can pull through and we can make it work. I see what you're saying, though. It does, and if you view it in that way, it does seem pessimistic, almost like a little bit like, geez, it's so bad. The only way we get out of this is a miracle. But I think it's much more optimistic than that.
Okay, my interpretation was sort of pessimistic.
Okay.
But I mean, I kind of see where you're coming from, especially, in the context of the next line and the rest of the song.
Yes.
It seems more optimistic.
Yes. I mean, as you were saying, the I won't die, the shift.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, this could also follow that shift as well and have like almost a up and down kind of thing of like, oh, hey, it's not going to be good, but in the end, triumph is what will occur. Anyway, so when the battle seems unwinnable, that line is paired with Cinder and the new girl, potentially a spring maiden. Battle seems unwinnable. Potentially 2 minutes. Yeah, I can see that. But all we need is a miracle. And that's with Yang and Raven. I don't actually know. So
I don't know if there's a one-to-one pairing.
No, the interesting pairing with that is that with Raven showed up, saved her daughter's life.
Right.
So that in that case, that was a miracle.
That was a miracle.
I thought Yang was screwed.
It was a miracle. I mean, at that point in the series,
yeah,
I wasn't even remotely considering the possibility of a character dying.
Yeah, that was cool. That was an amazing
Well, no, to me, because I never crossed my mind that Yang was actually in danger of death.
Oh, okay.
It never did, because it was such a foreign concept to me at the time, because it's, at that point the show still seemed so innocent, at least to me, at that point,
fair.
being like sort of a naive viewer.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. To me, when I saw that, I was going, holy crud, wait a minute. Whoa, Yang's getting the snot being. Oh wait, that's a umbrella sword. This is bad. This is real bad. And then it's like, okay,
but
it's fine.
In retrospect, yeah, obviously Neo was about to just like straight kill her, and it was a miracle that saved her.
Yes, so it might be something along those lines. And then in that case, it almost is interesting because then okay, a miracle happened once, but it doesn't happen twice. So that goes back to the, okay, I saved your life, but not your arm. Which could have been her life. Anyway. So yeah, it just makes me think. If it gets so bad, what the heck would a miracle be? Like, what sort of miracle would show up? And I have no idea, but it makes me feel like
that's
something...
a little too speculative, I think.
Yeah, it makes me think that something drastic is going to happen, and I have no idea what it is.
I mean, probably.
Okay.
Something will probably happen in this episode. Good.
Yes.
In this volume.
Awesome.
Good prediction.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of like, how would you have so much faith that it was going to happen? That's just going on my idea of that they believe that it can happen.
Plot armor?
Maybe. Anyway. Moving on?
Well, there are 2 more lines, right? Well, I don't know. We could have split it up differently.
Okay, it seems like we split it up differently because the next set I have is with Ilya and the brothers.
Okay,
and Weiss summoning the White Soldier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I cut off this stanza, I think, when Weiss was summoning, with the next 2 lines were going up when RWBY died.
I probably just broke it up more because, as I said earlier, that previous line was my favorite.
Okay, that's fine. It's trivial.
Yeah.
We can talk about it up to the Weiss summoning, then we can go back to those lyrics.
Okay. All right. So, Ilya, the brothers, Weiss, and the summoning of the White Soldier.
Oh yeah. So, Ilya.
Yeah.
It looks like she's praying.
It is in front of
consulting with elder spirits. Because not to show off my, culturedness, but in Mulan, when she's praying to the elder spirits of her ancestors, she's got the same candle shrine going, pictures of ancestors.
Yeah, it is kind of a
shrine
scenario that does seem like a shrine, and the picture of it's kind of this hooded figure that you can't see their face, and then when it turns to the brothers, they're wearing a similar garb.
Right.
So, I'm not exactly sure what to make of this scene, to be honest, beside the fact that it shows that Ilya's with those brothers.
Yes, definitely.
Which we already knew.
Right. Who do you think the guy in the painting is?
I don't even know where to start.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Do you think Corsic and Finnick are like? I mean, I guess I've never really.
Actually, the one so I don't have an idea of who it is, but on the thought of that we mentioned earlier about hey, these religious symbols.
Yeah.
What if it's kind of similar, like where there's this faunist religion? And
I was
kind
gonna say
around that.
Yeah. I was gonna say what I was gonna say was on very similar lines. Is like I don't think I've ever said it explicitly, but part of the vibe that I get from Corsic and Finnick is that they're like monks or religious.
Me too.
Because of the habits,
garb.
I think they're called.
That too.
That's what you called like the monk wear, I think. Yeah, they seem like religious, like acolytes, I guess.
Okay.
So I don't know, but maybe there is a faunus religion or a faunus spiritual religion.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I don't either. Yeah, really, I don't. Like, the only thing I really got from that is that Ilya is fond of the brothers, kind of, and like, oh, hey, look, my friends, kind of way, because she seemed kind of happy when she like turned around, like, oh, hi.
I don't know if I got that from her turning around. I forget what I said. It looked exactly like she was doing, but
yeah, you said it was like this. She was praying, or
well, yeah, but like when she turned around.
Oh, I think she was just like smiling. I remember it that she was happy when she was turning around. But anyway, what I like about this is like we're gonna have more Ilya.
All I have written down for that part are Corsic and Finnick are dicks.
Why?
Because that's all I can think of when I see them.
What? They're fine.
They're not.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not. Because
okay.
I had hopes for their characters in volumes 4, but then they were just like these generic plotting villains.
They have. Well, guess what? Now they're gonna be in this volume, so maybe they'll get better.
You would think that they would have been in volume 4 based on their appearance on the title sequence, but they really were not that much.
I mean, I wouldn't say Hazel, who was in the title sequence last time, had much of a role either.
Yeah, that was another disappointment.
Hey, but now they're in this one.
But to be fair, they couldn't exactly show that dramatic position of. That's a whole nother opening. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about that.
Let's stick to one opening at a time.
Yes. But anyway, I think it's if your complaint is that in a previous opening, oh hey, they were in the opening, but they didn't seem to matter. I think since they're showing up again, I think it highlights even more that maybe they're going to matter more this time.
No, my complaint is that I don't like how they were fleshed out as characters.
Oh, I see.
Because they look so generically evil with like their hoods and like they look like generic cultists.
I see.
To me. And I was hoping they wouldn't be. Okay. And then in volume 4 we find out that they are. And I was like, "Oh, that's a shame. I wish they were like deeper."
Okay. Well, maybe they'll have an opportunity to be deeper, or maybe not. Maybe they will just be cultists-ish.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I guess it's kind of unfair because we
didn't see that much of them.
Right, exactly. They didn't have a chance really to be fleshed out to any reasonable degree. So I hope that happens in this volume.
I agree.
Kind of unfair of me. My bad.
It's okay. No, it's understandable. It's like, oh man, there are these cool new oh man. Why are they so generic? I get it. It's disappointing. But yeah, then Weiss summoning this.
Oh yeah, Weiss has her summoning under control, so it would seem.
That was so cool to me. It was just like, bah. And suddenly, whoa, look at that white soldier. Oh, holy crud. This is amazing. This is awesome. I thought it was great.
Yep.
I really like that little bit. Just like,
seems like she's got it under control.
Yes. All right. Ready for the lyrics?
Yep, just the 2 lines here.
Yep. We're going up, will never be denied.
What do you think exactly that means?
I think goes close with the idea that we were saying that a transition is occurring, that things are going to start getting better. It's like we're going up and no one's going to stop us.
Like up in the world? Up in emotions? Physically upwards?
Maybe success.
Okay, so like up in the world.
Maybe not necessarily in terms like
status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like things are gonna go our way more.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting how, like, with how the word going up was with Ilya and the brothers. So I don't know if there's a connection there. Except like, oh hey, maybe the White Fang is gonna start doing better.
Hope not.
Yeah, and then we'll never be denied with Weiss the soldier. After, if you look at the soldier, it's like, yeah, I guess not. I don't think I'm gonna argue with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. So the next portion that we have here is where we have Hazel. Well, it opens with Hazel fighting Nora and Ren, which I just want to say he caught Nora's hammer, which very impressive.
Yeah, let me just iterate how excited I am again to see Hazel, and especially Hazel fighting, no less.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
So I was gonna ask later. Oh, hey, what about this? When you saw this opening, what made you excited? And this is one of the things that made me excited. Of just kind of, oh my gosh, Hazel is amazing.
Same.
Whoa, because at first I'm like, okay, he seems like a pretty interesting character, but now it's like, holy crud, he seems like a very interesting character.
Right, and I think one of the most important things we can notice from that is that it doesn't look like he's using a weapon. He's just using his hands.
That's a very fair point. Yeah.
And he's just like tossing them around.
Yeah, when it had that shot of Adam and him, he didn't really seem to have any weapons on him.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Oh gosh, dang. Yeah, he probably just fistfights people. He just blocked Ren's things with his arms as well.
Or maybe he just doesn't use it very often, or maybe it's concealed or unexpected, sort of like, Velvet or...
I guess you're right.
I mean, obviously not exactly the same, but it could just be something not
overly
on him
conspicuous,
or not that he uses, or something like that.
Yeah,
hard to say.
It is hard to say.
He was definitely beating them with just his fists.
He was fighting them with just his fists. Yeah.
Which let's not underestimate him. He's one of Salem's 4 lieutenants. So
yeah,
we can only assume that they're all comparable in strength.
And probably have their own skill set.
Yeah.
That sets them apart.
Yeah.
All right. Next set is Blake and Ilya. Well, pretty much it kind of just seems to me where Blake's like, "Oh no, don't want to fight Ilya," and then Ilya's like, "Okay, I'm going to attack you," and then she dodges, and then having like, "Okay, I will fight you if I have to." It's like kind of the stuff we were talking about in the Blake character short. That essentially they don't really want to fight each other, but they will because they're on opposite sides. And I think it almost shows like a continuation of the character short from, okay, they saw each other for not the first time in a while, but they saw each other again, like, oh no, I don't want to fight my friend. But now it's like, okay, we are on separate sides and we have to resolve this.
Right. And just specifically what I saw is that to me at first she looks kind of shocked.
Yeah.
Almost. And then Ilya, we don't see her hesitating. She just kind of goes for it.
Yeah.
And then after she gets attacked, Blake is totally fine with the retaliatory strike.
Yes.
But Blake initially looked shocked, and then she fights back.
Indeed. So yeah, I think that just is going to be continuation and pretty much shows that Ilya is going to be showing up in this volume.
I'm looking forward to that playing out in the volume.
Me too. That's also something I look forward to. The last one is Mercury and Yang, where Yang has red eyes.
Yes, that was very noticeable.
That was interesting because once again it brings back the idea of, oh, is she relying on her semblance? Or, so it's hard to say, but I look forward to seeing Yang fight more.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, the thought of a Yang versus Mercury rematch is pretty exciting.
That is a very good point. Also, it looked like Mercury was really enjoying himself. He's smiling the entire time he's fighting her.
And if they fought again, I'd be smiling the whole time too.
Oh, okay. Oh. Fair.
No, it would be exciting if they got a rematch. If all these fights from the trailer came true, which sometimes they don't, much to my dismay.
Yeah.
But if it did come true, it would be interesting to see if Yang's training comes in, how it comes in, and what the result of their fight is. How it's, especially if Mercury was holding back the first time, etc., etc.
Yeah, just gotta see if that training came in handy.
Yeah. So, it's another thing to look forward to.
Indeed. All right. Into the lyrics?
Yes.
Alrighty. Would you care to go to start us off?
Yes. I'll just read through them, I guess.
Please do.
All right. Can't wish away the dismal days, which actually you have what's on the screen at the time and I don't, so.
Okay, so yeah, what's on the screen at the time is that is Nora, and that is Nora. So I actually just had it so that because it wasn't nice and cut, it wasn't nice, clear and cut. It actually dribbled into each other. So can't wish away the dismal days, can't bring back what is gone is from Nora until Ilya's attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't as clean and cut as the last ones were, so I kind of mixed them together a little bit.
Okay.
So what's on the screen probably from Can't Wish Away the Dismal Days is probably Nora's. Mm-hmm. Nora and Ren fighting Hazel, while Can't Bring Back What Is Gone is more of the into Blake and Ilya.
Okay.
But since it kind of carried over into both, I think it kind of relates to both.
Could be, yeah.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on that one line?
Oh, well, I mean, my thoughts were more on the verse as a whole.
Okay.
Which sure. I'll just finish it and then share.
Sure.
So the rest goes, won't waste more tears on yesteryears, instead we'll carry on.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, this whole verse, taken as a whole, it really just spells out, like, I guess one of the themes of what, presumably the volume will be, which is moving on from, the strife of Volume 3 that was sort of resolved for several characters in some ways. In Volume 4. But, I mean, the point is, it's like it says, that it's time to look forward towards the future. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, I felt that it was talking, I mean, as you were saying, it's talking about, you can't bring back the people who have died. You can't, you can't just wish away the fall of Vale or anything like that.
Right. And you won't dwell on the past. Blake.
No, interestingly, that is specifically when Blake comes back at Ilya, is when it's like, okay, you can't waste more tears on yesteryears. That is when Blake is on her counterattack. So that's really neat.
Yeah, and I mean, I think obviously Blake probably has like one of the highest amounts of baggage.
Yeah.
In terms of, especially with how she deals with it.
Yes.
In terms of regret and looking back and wondering what she could have done differently.
And the instead will carry on is on Yang. So I believe that is more directly like to her arm and like, the depression or maybe not depression, but trauma and kind of depression a little bit that she went through. So it was interesting that the first half of the verse is dribbles in between two scenes, but those two are clean cut, one for Blake, one for Yang. So I found that interesting. So I think, to me, it kind of felt like that those last two lines were specifically for those characters, and the other one, that line before, could go for either. Yeah,
I could see it. I think they're both pretty fitting to the characters. Then again, you might be able to switch them around and also say they're pretty fitting. Because they kind of have the same or similar messages. They
do. I mean, I feel like won't waste more tears on yesteryears. Not specifically tears maybe for Blake, but worrying about the past is something Blake has dealt with for a very long time. And it is probably, out of all the 4 RWBY team characters, it applies most to her.
Yeah, definitely.
And then second to Yang, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Yang will carry on is exactly what she is trying to do right now. At the end of Volume 4 is her now moving forward again. So I think it was very fitting.
Right.
And then... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and I'm excited to see how, we sort of see this manifestation of their new strength in the next volume.
Very much so. And I think that comes up very beautifully in the next set of images. But right before that, I just want to mention how I found it interesting how Nora and Ren were shown in the very first part. And the only reason I think that's important is because specifically Pierre died. And they were her teammates. So
right. That could be a good reason for tying into lyrics.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So I think that's partially why. But anyway, ready for the next part?
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. RWBY does a sick slice with Crescent Rose.
Oh yeah. I just want to point out everyone else is fighting someone.
Yeah.
But RWBY just spins in a circle.
I mean, so we don't know.
Is she okay?
I mean, we don't know what she's aiming at.
I mean, yeah, but
we also don't know what any of the characters are trying to fight in that sequence because it's like, oh, okay, Weiss is being swung on by her soldier.
No. Blake's fighting Ilya. Yang is fighting Mercury.
No. But and then this segment, because this is a different segment in my opinion.
Oh, true. I kind of ended the segment like, no. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, because it ends on and then we'll carry on, which ends with Yang.
Oh no, okay, yeah. See, I have it with it ending with RWBY spinning, but it's kind of a thin line.
Yeah, I believe it is because it. Well, I'm fairly certain that it ends with Yang.
I believe you.
But because with RWBY it starts the "We'll win, we're sure we will endure." So that is the next stanza.
Yeah.
So first
and if you pause on her spinning.
Oh, her face.
She looks really smug.
Oh yeah, she looks real pleased with herself.
Oh, I'm glad you noticed too.
Oh yeah,
it looks more like a Cinder face to me. Cause like Cinder's really the smug one.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Interesting.
And when I saw it, I was like, that's not really a RWBY face.
No, I guess not.
And I feel like it could just be that the facial expressions in general are exaggerated a little bit because they happen so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I understand if they want to exaggerate it to get a point across.
Yeah.
Or she could just be feeling really smug. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it seemed like she was pretty confident with that swing.
But if you're right and it's matching up with the line, we'll win for sure, we will endure. That's a pretty confident, smug line.
That is.
It would make sense.
It would be very fitting. But yeah. Right. So anyway, RWBY doing 6 slice. Weiss also smiling, riding on the soldier on her blade. Soldier's blade. That was really cool.
Yeah, Weiss is awesome.
It's like, what?
In this.
What?
And I hope she does that in the volume.
Yes, so much so. That's amazing.
Yeah, also, I just want to point out that is definitely the best, screen cap of the intro is when Weiss is on the blade. It's good all around.
So good. And then Blake shoots forward and then jumps and then Yang propels herself forward and to some sort of enemy.
Yeah, what do you think's going on there?
I think so. Similarly to how they were showed each character, oh hey, each character they got their small little moment and then they grabbed all their weapons. This is kind of just showing now that they're all together. That's first all.
Right.
2, because the background's the same.
Yeah, I was just before we move off of that point, I just wanted to they're in kind of a big nondescript room.
Yeah.
Is that just
I don't know.
It's just there.
I guess. Okay. I mean, it's maybe somewhere they'll actually be later, but I don't know who's to say.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. But moving on. Let's see. Yeah, so I think it kind of parallels the beginning again, where it's okay, each of the characters get their own little small scene, and I think it's also to show their improvement in fighting, something like that.
And it is in order again.
Yes. All right.
Oh, is that? Because I was gonna say, for me at least, just the fact that Blake and Yang have that one scene together.
Yeah.
It stands out a little bit to me. It's just being a little different than the other ones.
Okay.
Because they're they're sharing a scene and they're switching places.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like it could be symbolic of something. Okay. I don't know. It just struck me as kind of strange.
I mean, for me, it kind of felt like both characters are moving forward.
Right. In my over analysis, I'm sure. Some possibilities. Or what I was thinking of was just maybe Yang is moving forward and Blake is going backwards, or Blake is moving forward and Yang is going backwards, or.
I mean, I can't see why they can't both be going forward in their own individual paths. Yeah, but Blake disappears before Yang shows up.
That was very cute and zen. sometimes going forward, you have to go backward, etc., etc.
There's the episode.
It's like a
2 steps forward, 3 steps back, or something.
Yeah, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Oh, it's 2 of each. Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking is like maybe it's something about like their relationship, or I don't know.
Okay. I mean, it is clear that Yang wasn't happy with the fact that Blake just left.
Right, and Blake obviously regrets leaving, or
I
probably.
imagine so. Oh, yeah. Does she mention that in Volume 4? I cannot recall.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Most likely, when at some point talking to Sun about it, I imagine she mentioned how...
Seems like the general sentiment.
Oh yeah, also the just kind of that idea, I hurt my friends and such, and since like we're here by choice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's like we are helping you by choice. So yeah, probably somewhere around there. Yeah, I actually have it where it continues where then Team RWBY just like kind of lines up. Mm-hmm. Like RWBY notices, oh hey look, my friends, and they all line up, and then they jump at Salem.
Yeah. So in this, when RWBY is initially by herself, running towards what we eventually see to be Salem.
Yes.
At first, I was looking at her face. Uh-huh. At first, to me, she looks determined.
Yeah.
And then she looks like she's surprised by something, which is presumably Salem.
Oh no, because Salem hasn't showed up yet.
Well, I mean, I assume that she was like, off camera there.
No, she spawns.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because I figured she was like,
And the reason I say
there
that...
in that time.
No, because the reason I say that is because all of Team RWBY stops, frozen in their tracks, looking up.
Right.
And that is when Salem, like, shows up. Like, she appears.
I thought that was just because when they were, like, running at her, then, like, they stopped and they got there, and they were like, oh, boy, like... Are we really going to do this? Mm-mm. And then, without much hesitation, they jump at her.
No, because they are surprised by the fact that she is there. They all have surprise faces.
All right, well, we just watched it to settle between us. Mm-hmm. And it actually ended up still being pretty ambiguous.
Yeah.
To me, I still think it looks like that when they arrive at her, it looks like she's rearing up. And then...
For me, I feel like she's spawning because you see the cape like flutter out and then she's emerging, so it feels like she just kind of showed up there, and they're kind of like, holy crud, what is this?
Ultimately, it probably doesn't really matter.
Probably not. But
up for interpretation, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, if you have another interpretation, let us know, and we'll have a very fun discussion about it.
The minute, inconsequential details.
Hey, minute, inconsequential, seemingly inconsequential details might be very important.
You could.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, you're right. So either way, they Ruby's running up. She looks determined.
Yeah.
Surprised.
Yeah.
And then she looks confident.
Yeah.
Either when she sees her friends or she's running up.
Yeah.
And then they all see Salem.
Yeah.
The teammates all join her in order, of course.
Yes.
Then they pause for a brief moment in front of giant Salem, and
they jump.
Yeah, they look surprised or worried for an instant.
Yeah,
but then they quickly get over it, and they all leap at her together.
Yes.
Hooray! Team RWBY's reunited.
Woo! Yes, that is for sure. One thing I want to mention is that if you pause the frame right before they jump, Ruby's face looks slightly uncertain, while all 3 of the other faces look like angry and ready to go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I find that interesting.
What do you think?
I don't really know why RWBY would look like that. And while the other 3 would kind of like, oh, let's just go in. But I think the best response I have is like, RWBY seems like someone who's willing to negotiate a little bit more than the other 3. So I kind of feel like it's like, should I hurt this person?
That's a very kind-hearted perspective on RWBY, which she definitely, it's warranted.
Yeah,
it's warranted.
So that's the best answer I have for that. Really, is that when I noticed that, I just kind of like, that's a very interesting detail. And when I thought about that, was the only answer I could come up with.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't really know what else I could say about that.
That's fair. But yeah, Team RWBY's reunited.
Yeah.
At least according to this opening, it seems like they are reunited and fighting against Salem. So I don't think. Do you think Salem actually shows up?
Well,
or if it's like just the representation of Salem and her forces.
Well, I mean, Salem's not that big, you know.
We don't know.
We do in fact know because we've seen her in reference to all of the other evil characters. So unless she has some crazy power to,
her legs are just
turn
under the
large.
Table.
Yeah, that seems a little unlikely.
Yeah, fair.
But
she does seem like a normal humanoid.
I feel like it's a metaphor.
I agree.
Because I mean, Salem is literally being the big bad evil guy.
Yeah.
In this depiction.
Yeah.
And she's just like rearing over them and
like,
ooh, I'm menacing.
Yeah.
But
I also don't think it's advantageous for her to show up somewhere. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that.
We have.
Probably several times.
We've talked about that many times, and the gist is simply that if she rears her head, I'm pretty sure it won't be hard to unite the entire world against her.
Yeah, so I don't know. I would love if she did show up.
Oh gosh, seeing Salem fight? Whew.
Yeah, it'd be great. Don't
terrifying.
know if she will. Seems more like a metaphor.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You could take it literally. In which case, terrifying. Positively terrifying. But, yeah, alright. Ready for the lyrics?
Oh yeah, and then I was just going to say that...
Good.
Then the opening kind of ends with... They all do the rose petal shatter thing again. Yeah. And they're all in their own colors, which is beautiful. And then the final screen is created by Monty.
Yes.
Which is a really great touch.
Yes. I cannot argue against any of that. Alrighty.
Yes.
Lyrics.
All
right. We'll win. That's just RWBY spinning. Okay. So as Ben already mentioned, that confident face tied with that line. We're sure we will endure. That's all Weiss. Yeah. It's gonna go great. And though,
it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
Yeah, and though our goal is far, that's Blake and Yang. And then we'll be the ones to touch the sun. That's when they all line up. Mm-hmm. The triumph will be ours. That's the leap. It's great.
Yeah, so talk about, what you're talking about before, ending on positivity.
Ooh.
This is a very optimistic last verse.
Yeah.
And total change of tone from the first verse, second verse of the song.
Very much so. Yeah, it's an interesting transition from, oh hey, things are pretty bad, to we'll be fine and we'll win. That's a pretty drastic change, but...
Do you think that's what's really going to happen?
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think... I can certainly see things getting worse.
I agree with that part of the song.
The issue is, and that's why I'm so held up, and why my favorite line is the one about the miracle, because I think if it does get better, it's something to do with that. I have no idea what it is, but that just feels like the only way.
I don't think I actually said this, but my favorite line, if you care, is...
I care.
It's the verse that goes, or the section that's can't wish away the dismal days, can't bring back what is gone.
Okay.
Won't waste more tears on yesteryears. Specifically, I like won't waste more tears on yesteryears. I think that is cool, and I like the message of them having the strength to move on.
Yes.
And also yesteryears, cool word.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep. While we were, on that subject.
No, that's good. I'm glad you brought it
up. Yeah, and so then back to the lyrics we were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be the ones to touch the sun.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's supposed to mean like we'll be the ones that come up on top, and we'll be the ones that are kind of like in the good light. Like just the idea of like, oh, we'll be the ones to touch the sun.
You think touch the sun like in an Icarus sense?
No, most certainly not in an Icarus sense.
Because it could be that they're overly optimistic, and then they end up being Icarus-y, and then fall to their death in the ocean or something.
That's actually interesting. That's an interesting way to view it. If they're just like, okay,
deluded.
If this is all false confidence, it could be.
Volume 6.
Oh gosh. I mean, we're in Volume 5 right now, so... I mean, Volume 6 is happening, so... Yeah.
You're right. It is.
They aren't going to end it on Volume 5, because there are 3...
Can't confirm.
Yeah. But...
just what I was talking about before, where they're building up something so they can take it away in the next volume, is what I was...
Okay. I see.
Recalling there.
Yeah. No, I think it's more like a line of just glory. It's like... We'll be the ones to take
also
glory.
Also a fair interpretation.
Yeah, and then the triumph will be ours. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Like, we're going to win this thing.
Yeah.
Like, in the end, we succeed. But yeah. Besides that being very optimistic in the end, also very enjoyable.
Yeah, I like this opening. I don't think we ever talked about our general thoughts, but I like this opening a lot. And even from my first viewing, my first viewing of the Volume 4 opening, I wasn't like a huge fan, and it grew on me. Yeah. But I like this opening a lot from the very first time I saw it. And it's up there with my favorite openings.
Yeah. I think I can agree with that. It's quite impressive. It was a very good and well done job.
I think it's probably the most artistic visually. It looks the best, in my opinion.
Okay.
With the with the effects at the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially is what I'm thinking of.
I think part of that might be the new animation style, though.
I mean, probably, but they also had they were using Maya in the Volume 4 opening too.
Yeah.
And I wasn't it did look cool.
Yeah.
But I wasn't
as impressive.
But the Volume 4 opening did look a little choppy. But let's not go into it here.
Yes, we are talking about the Volume 5.
That'll be a separate multi-hour video.
Heh. Yeah, tell me about it. All right. Yeah, so overall, it seems like the team is going to start separated, but come together at some point.
Yep, definitely will start separated.
That is the feel I got from just comparing the beginning to the end.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It seems like they're going to fight the forces of Salem, because you see the forces of Salem and then jump at Salem.
Yep.
I mean, okay. They each have their own issues, and they're going to be able to... All right, and it seems like they're going to try to work through those.
Yes.
That is kind of also the feel I get from this.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, no more deaths, just by the line of, I won't die. But I don't believe them.
That's optimistic.
It's super optimistic. It's such an optimistic
Blake and Son won't die, specifically.
Specifically only them. That's good. Yeah, and the volume's probably not ending in tragedy. The triumph will be theirs.
Yeah. Don't really have anything to contest that, so.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it ends nicely.
Yeah.
It'd be a nice change of pace. How'd the last one end? I almost died because of poison. That's not great.
Everyone was fine.
Crow almost didn't make it.
Yeah, but he was fine.
Oh gosh.
You could almost call that positivity.
Okay. I guess. All right. What are you excited about for the? Oh, one more thing. Potential Spring Maiden stuff. Just with the idea that one new character might be the Spring Maiden.
What about it specifically?
Nothing about it, just the fact it's gonna be there and it might be that person.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to see another Maiden.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll see more Maiden fights. It's been
That sounds frightening.
Been a volume or two.
That sounds frightening. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it feels like the power level is slowly increasing throughout the series, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Um,
You also just like fights.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
I'm not denying it, but
yeah.
yeah.
And also it did look like they were rearing to go. So, and that one confrontational look at each other,
right?
It's like,
and I mean, narratively, they're all trying to do something now. First of all, like they're near their goal, and presumably people will try to stop them.
Sure.
And also a lot of them have like reasons for revenge. We saw or conflicts that will, or like interpersonal conflicts that will ultimately, like, they pretty much have to end in conflict. Specifically, Yang and Mercury have a history.
Yeah.
Blake and Ilya are ultimately
They have
going
history.
to fight, probably.
It seems like it.
Yeah. Cinder obviously has it out for Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
And Weiss, well, I don't think Weiss actually has it out for anyone, or vice versa, but I'm sure she'll be there too.
People probably have something out for Weiss.
Flint Cole.
Nah. At the end of that fight,
no,
they seem to be on
I know.
good terms.
I'm kidding. They made up. But
okay. All right. I mean, what I'm excited for is just seeing each of Team RWBY's individual growths, because it seems like that's a thing we're gonna see.
Yeah.
Get to see Hazel because.
Yeah.
I thought he was interesting, but after seeing the opening, I find him much more so, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he works.
Oh yeah, I already knew he was interesting, but I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, Weiss the Soldier, Knight, whatever you want to call it. I am very excited for that.
That's true. That'll be cool.
That seemed amazing. That was one of the few things in the trailer, besides Hazel just grabbing the Nora out of the air and throwing her. That was amazing. The new girl, which I already said, it's maybe the Spring Maiden. Excited for that. More Ilya. She seemed neat based on the Blake character short, so looking forward to that as well.
Oh yeah, Ilya is definitely interesting.
Oscar. I like Oscar.
I know you do.
I want to see more of Oscar. So we get more of Oscar. And Oz, I guess.
You know who wasn't in this?
Who?
Emerald.
You are correct. Huh.
That's right.
Huh. Whoa. I mean, I imagine she's there. Because not in the trailer, but... Oh, wait, that'd be trippy.
She's actually... No, guys, I swear, she's there. You just can't see her because it's an illusion.
Yeah, she just has it so that every time you watch it...
She's actually in the background of every scene.
Yeah, she's just there all the time, but you don't know. Actually, it is just a video of Emerald sitting in front of a chair and just staring at a camera and just be like, this is going to be great.
That's how they do all their animation, actually.
Yeah, they just have it so that Emerald tricks you.
Really cuts down on animator costs.
I bet, yeah.
But seriously. But seriously, Emerald wasn't in that trailer.
No, she wasn't. So that's interesting, yeah. I mean, I imagine she's there.
Yeah, I can't really imagine her not
is going to show up.
being there unless she, like, dies suddenly. But that...
I think that'd be...
that seems pretty unlikely.
Mid-volume gets just a
mid-volume transition.
Yeah. It's like, oh, by the way, this character just happened to fall off a cliff when we weren't looking.
So, I don't know if there was a reason that they didn't include her. Like, maybe she doesn't play a big role, but, like, if Mercury made it into the trailer, you'd think she would make it into the trailer, because they kind of go together.
I mean, so Mercury fighting Yang, that makes sense. Like, they have history.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know who you would have paired Emerald up with.
Yeah.
In a fight, at least.
I mean, yeah, she doesn't, like, directly fight people a lot.
No, she doesn't.
She does sometimes, but not any of the 4 RWBY girls.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't have an explanation for why she wasn't in the trailer. So I don't really know what to say to that.
It might have, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't have enough room because there was already a lot going on.
Yep.
And it seemed like they covered a lot of major things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
So she could have been, like, in the background. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's possible. Anyway, Is there anything else you would like to add about this trailer before we wrap up?
Other than Emerald not being there, no, not really.
Okay. Well, in that case, thanks for listening to the non-spoiler section of the Volume 5 opening episode. We pretty much talked about the lyrics in tandem with the actual images, and primarily talked about how it seems like Team RWBY's going to start off separated, get back together, how there's going to be some nice character development and conflicts that are going to be resolved.
How the course of the volume may go from negative to positive if, the opening song is to be literally believed.
Yes, in addition to potentially some maiden stuff going on, maybe the Spring Maiden, Leo potentially being in the guy that's being
Yep, the new characters.
Yeah.
Both of them that we haven't really seen before.
No.
And yeah, the roles that Raven and Crow could play.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot we covered.
Yes, and
we talked about religion a lot.
We did. We talked a bit about religion when who's to
definitely
say it was
relevant.
Warranted.
Yeah. With the Crow and Ruby symbol.
Yes.
And then also Ilya, Secret Faunus religion. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
We talked about the moon a little bit as well.
A little bit about
earlier.
the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, just kind of what we think might happen and what we're excited for as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, in terms of the next episode, we will be talking about Volume 5, Episode 1, Chapter 1. So please get excited for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening once again. And we are now going to move on to the spoiler section. I repeat, the words that will be coming out of our mouths after this small little insert will be about spoilers. So if you have not watched the rest of Volume 5, you should probably pause it for now.
You did a great job stalling.
Thank you. Alrighty, so pretty much just primary thing is kind of just reanalyzing the song a little bit, not word for word as we did last time, but for me at least, it's kind of like, okay, first of all, the opening seems like a pretty good summary of kind of what happens and kind of good timeline.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, we've really done the bulk of the analysis, like in the previous section in the video, because a lot of what we said was, I mean, the opening is a pretty accurate prediction of the volume as we would expect. Like we said, like, it ends up being pretty optimistic overall, despite some down moments.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a few things you can gain, I think, from...
Okay.
So, first one, I would say, is kind of that, things may get worse. You obviously have, like, the Leo betrayal, and Blake's family gets attacked and such like that, and Sienna Khan gets murdered.
Yeah, no, bad things do happen.
Yeah, so bad things do happen in the beginning, so that's valid.
We find out all those huntsmen are dead.
Yeah. And then also, interestingly, with the Spring Maiden stuff, like, so it's pretty funny because, like, okay, you have the direct comparison of looking at the two people, like, on the screen at the same time, but it's actually a ploy because it's actually the people that show up when they're, like, in the same position that matter. When you really think about it.
What a red herring, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's everything leading us to believe that Vernal was the Spring Maiden.
Yep. And then it's
that's
actually
a really good point,
it's just, and then, oh hey, who's actually fighting each other? Oh, it's this Fall Maiden against this Spring Maiden, and and technically in that thing they would be facing each other because they're facing opposite directions.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I thought of that.
Yeah, so it was a freaking ploy the entire time, and it was great.
Go figure.
Yeah. Also, the things about, like, starting off bad, the initial outcome of that fight, the ambush, bad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very bad.
That's part of the volume.
I don't know about that.
It was. Yeah. Oh yeah. Can I just say that I'm really happy that pretty much all of the title fights came true
Yes.
in pretty much every capacity. The only one that didn't really happen was Weiss riding on the sword.
Yeah, and also Ruby swinging the way she did. Like, those moves, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say were necessarily the way that they came out, but
Yeah. Less concerned about that one. But
yes.
the other ones, Hazel fought exactly the same way.
Yes.
Even the giant Salem clone obviously ended up being an illusion.
That is the only, like we mentioned in the previous section, how Emerald didn't show up. That's the closest thing to her showing up.
Yeah, she could have been there.
Yeah.
Actually there.
Or running away or being carried. Being carried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good explanation, yeah.
And then the miracle that turns the fight, John's semblance, and the realization that Oz is in the room. And also that Raven is the Spring Maiden, because that saved the people down below.
Right.
Because had Vernal actually been the Spring Maiden, dead in the water. She went real screwed, real fast.
Yeah. But it was all part of Raven's master plan.
It was. So I would say if you want to say a miracle, the thing that was the miracle is John's semblance, because that saved Weiss's life.
Huh. I mean, miracle seems a little strong on my first impression, but I guess thinking about it, yeah, it did save Weiss's life.
Oh yeah, she was pretty screwed otherwise.
And Weiss coming back did ultimately end up turning the tide of the fight.
Yeah.
Because she, was finally able to do her summons.
Yeah.
And that really, yeah.
Speaking of her summons, the line that goes with Weiss summoning her giant thing is never be denied. Denied all the time. Vernal's like, nope, you ain't doing jack. You ain't doing anything. Just never be denied. You're wrong. Incorrect statement. She's denied when it mattered the most.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And then instead we'll carry on. Yeah, they did that. They did that real good. Blake did that real good. Yang did that real good. Weiss, next volume. RWBY, pretty good.
Oh yeah, we already talked extensively, I think, about the character development.
Yes.
That all the characters have been through. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again when it actually comes up in the volumes. But
yes.
Suffice in the episodes. Suffice to say that, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and one of the other quotes is, "Can't wish away the dismal days, can't bring back what is gone." That also occurs when Hazel is fighting Nora and Ren. And when you think about it, he can't bring back his sister.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think, when we were talking earlier, like, oh, it's kind of weird maybe that Hazel's there, it fits. It still fits for him as well, because he can't get over the fact his sister died. It's the whole reason he's trying to kill Oz.
Right, his whole thing is dwelling on the past.
Yes. So I think he might get over that. When? No freaking clue.
You think so?
I do.
I think it doesn't seem like it to me.
I think they'll
Seems like that's like his defining character thing.
I think they'll get to him.
That's a lot of optimism.
So is this song.
You're right, but
I don't
think
know.
I'm as optimistic.
I don't blame you.
Were there any hints in this opening that Ilya was going to change sides?
I don't think so, because that's also
Just
the line. That's also the line where she's attacking. It's the same line of "Can't wish away dismal days, can't bring back what is gone," and then it's just that we'll carry on. It's that you can't no more tears on the past, which kind of fits Ilya because of the whole mine scenario, the mine issue of it caving in, and then also that she actually had that breakdown in front of all those people, and that now she's moving forward.
Yeah.
So it fits.
Eventually.
Yeah, eventually. Takes most of the volume. Yeah. Besides that, good guys. Chalk 1 victory up for the good guys. They have won this encounter.
Yeah, and actually, I did think of I mentioned in the pre-section about how Volume 5 was built up to be taken away.
Yes.
I really only thought of that when I was rewatching this, I think. And just because, I don't know, I guess I wasn't expecting the volume to be as optimistic as it was.
Yeah.
Because it, I mean, obviously, as we said, there are bad things that happen, and it looks bleak at times.
Yeah.
But the ending goes really well.
Yeah. Surprisingly well.
Surprisingly well.
I mean, I thought the bombs were going to go off.
A little too well.
Agreed.
which is, partially why, I mean, I think that, I hope and I think that Volume 6 is going to be a doozy.
Yes, I imagine the hope and optimism we have gained from this volume is not exactly going to be the same theme of the next one.
Yes.
I certainly agree that this is a victory, but the war is certainly not won. There is much more to be done, and
you're right, yeah.
I have a feeling it will not go nearly as nicely. Probably not as badly as Vale, but it could get much worse. Much worse. Anyway. Oh yeah, this is the thing that I had mentioned last time of, oh hey, look, Ruby is the only one that seemed like she didn't want to go after Salem immediately. It was like, oh hey, when they were going to jump at. Mm-hmm. I think that, to me, that makes me feel, after seeing the volume of Ruby constantly trying to reach out and be like, hey, let's not fight.
Right, yeah, when you said that, I was thinking about when, when she tries to reach out to Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes me think that if someone is going to be like, if someone is going to see the fact that, oh, hey, maybe, like, because we've mentioned many times that, and this is technically a future, like, these are technically in future episodes, but that Salem is not, like, completely in the wrong.
Yeah, Salem may not be completely in the wrong. Ozpin may not be completely in the right. In fact, he's almost certainly not, I think, at this point.
So it makes me feel that Ruby will see that, okay, that Salem's not completely in the wrong, so it's not right to simply just try to destroy her. Like, just that moment of hesitation, moment of like, this isn't okay.
You're right.
So I feel like that might be hinting at something like that.
I hope we do see that, because that would be really interesting, I think.
Because I think Ruby is the only one who would really bring that up and be willing to do that. Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about that?
Weiss didn't die.
You're right.
As it said, she wouldn't. It's like, we're sure, we will endure. Yeah, she did not die. So that was accurate. Last thing I kind of have is teams reunited. It's going to be great. We pretty much would have gathered from watching the opening.
Yeah.
That, oh, hey, look, they start off separated and they end together. That's kind of telling. That was pretty telling. I'm actually really surprised they were that open about it. But yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, the openings are generally pretty direct.
Yes.
I feel. I mean, maybe it's sort of hidden behind quickly moving things and maybe some symbolism. But, if you stop and look at it, I don't think it's too hard to decode what's going on.
Yeah. Also helps that we've seen it already.
Well, yeah, everything's obvious in hindsight. It's like, yes. Oh, yeah, of course. Saw that one coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course it wasn't that clear, the very first time. And, I couldn't predict the whole plot of the volume, unfortunately.
Oh, heck no.
Fortunately, I guess.
Yeah, that wouldn't be very fun.
No.
But yeah. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, there is one thing that I did want to add on.
Sure.
Because there were a couple of things I brought up that I'm still interested in.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm thinking, like, just, I guess, some sort of lore details.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, well, the moon, which unfortunately we didn't learn anything about.
No.
Absolutely nothing. Expected. The second thing that we didn't learn anything about is the guy in the Faunus portrait.
Yes.
And also, I guess, in a similar way, like religion in general.
Yeah.
But one thing we did learn about is we learned a little bit more about the story of the gods and the relationship to Oz and Salem.
Sure.
Specifically in Volume 5, Episode 3, when Oz is talking to the gang for, I think, the first time, and catching them up on a little bit of what's going on, more than they already know. He talks to them about how he can reincarnate and stuff.
Yeah.
And he mentions the origin of his power, or of his curse, as he puts it, is that he was cursed by the gods, the brother gods, presumably.
Presumably.
Because that's who he says are real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and so I'm accepting that the brother gods are canon based on, this and what Crow said in Volume 4.
Okay.
So I 100% believe that that's what's going on.
Okay.
And so Ozpin says that he's cursed because he again he failed to defeat Salem.
Yeah.
It's still a little unclear about what Salem's origin is.
Yes.
Or whether she is in fact one entity, or what the deal is with her exactly.
Yes.
But it seems very clear that that there is a definite link between Ozpin's power, and Ozpin's like source of reincarnation, etc., and with divine power. Not obviously Ozpin is not directly a god or anything like I said, but it seems to me that the source of his power is definitely divine.
So it's possible that maybe his original semblance was that he can store power.
Right, you were talking about that?
Yes.
I don't know if I believe it's an interesting theory.
Uh-huh. And then the gods gave him the ability and the curse.
I hadn't thought of it before. What I was thinking when you were saying it was that I don't think that's true because I think it's all divine.
Then what's his actual semblance?
I don't know. Okay. And I think that's a really interesting question because I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I think we've definitely talked about it in person. It's hard to say how his semblance would work with the fact that he's, transferring not just bodies, but also he's transferring consciousnesses and melding consciousnesses.
Yes.
And therefore spirits.
Yes.
So, does he have one semblance that he's been transferring from body to body? Does he incorporate the semblance of each individual person he transfers with? Does he get replaced with the semblance of the person he transfers to?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. This is
and
true.
It would be sort of a good / easy explanation if he his semblance was the ability to store powers and semblances and that kind of thing. Which would kind of turn him into a super character, I guess, over time if he was an aggregate of dozens of different semblances, right?
Yeah.
Unless he got Crow semblance.
Yeah. So,
to me, that was one of the more interesting conversations in the volume, because specifically about the lore.
Yeah.
Furthermore, in that conversation, well, Ozpin obviously explicitly says, /Oscar explicitly says that the Ozpin body was not his first body.
No.
Which, I think we knew, but was nice to have spelled out to us. That Ozpin was, at one point, transferred to. And the one sort of small detail that Oscar /Oz mentions that might be important is that he talks about how, when he's talking about how Leo betrayed him, Ruby is like, but aren't the headmasters supposed to follow your orders? He goes, yes. He goes, yes, that was the plan. The plan was to have 4 loyal lieutenants that could watch my back and listen to me, especially in the case of reincarnation.
Yeah.
Especially during periods of reincarnation.
Yeah.
And so the thing that just stood out to me was that specifically he said 4 lieutenants.
Yes.
Which would imply that when he set up the academies, he wasn't himself a headmaster.
Probably not.
And so then either what would have happened was that he died and reincarnated as a child who ultimately became a headmaster, or in this conversation when he's explaining it, at least I didn't see, I'm not 100% sure, but I didn't see him mention anything about the restrictions of his reincarnation power, because we know
only that it goes to a like-minded individual.
Right, exactly. It goes to a like-minded individual. We know that for the maiden powers, one of the prerequisites, so it seems, is that they have to be young? No.
It's in last
not
thoughts.
Really.
So it could be an old woman.
Right. No, you're right. Sorry,
They could be thinking of their old grandmother.
You're right. I was thinking the wrong I had it wrong there.
Yeah.
But
So the prerequisite is just that they're like-minded, which
right.
in terms of the maidens, it's not like-minded, it's who was in their last thoughts.
Right, you're right. That was a poor comparison.
So I think that it's interesting that they have different conditions for how they work.
Right, it is.
So my thoughts on what you were just saying is that to revise the theory a little bit is that maybe his initial ability was... I mean, I don't know how he would have gained so much power to begin with otherwise if he couldn't, like, do this over time.
Divine providence.
Okay. But maybe he could distribute power, but then the curse is that he is forcefully then distributed. Like, his power automatically activates and goes to a like-minded individual. That he doesn't get a choice in terms of where his power goes, which like maybe his original thing was like, oh hey, he can give people powers, or he can divide up his own power and give it to others.
Well, I think the curse is that he has to fail over and over again, and I mean not like he's doomed to fail,
yes,
but like, you know, he can't.
This thinks it. The part of the one line says you do in this song,
but like it's impossible for him to move on, and like, you know, to sort of like live a normal life until he achieves this.
Yes,
like. Because, I mean, you know, immortality sounds great and all, but...
No, it doesn't.
It, you know, in some cases it can be a curse when you have to watch your friends and family die.
I mean, it sounds like he is actually on a timer. Not a timer, but in terms of how many he can do, because he says it's a very strenuous process. And it seems like he weakens every time he does it, so he does seem like he has a certain amount of trials.
It's hard to tell for me whether he's actually weakening as a result of reincarnation. He does say it's strenuous, but...
Yes.
I mean, I imagine it could just be like a transient stress also.
Maybe.
It could be a permanent thing where his power dwindles with each reincarnation. I'm really not sure.
Like a little piece stays with the corpse of whoever he had before.
Right. But then again, you'd think he'd also get a little stronger because he's merging with a new spirit every time.
Maybe. It's hard to say.
You know, of course it's hard to say. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What I was sort of getting at before with how the prerequisite was that only that it's a like-minded individual.
Yeah.
So in this case, the person it goes to is Oscar, who is quite young.
Yeah.
So it makes me think about, you know, if there are, what I was trying to get at before was if there are any age requirements, because to me it seems strange. Seems like it would be stranger for him to reincarnate into like and end up cohabitating like another adult's mind, because I would just feel like it feels a little strange since he like then absorbs their mind into his mind, you know?
I don't find it strange. I just
totally normal.
No, because he was saying that okay, I need 4 lieutenants to help me during times of reincarnation. If you have an adult that doesn't want this to happen, or is like it's gonna take a little bit longer, because like, what about me? I can see why then you kind of need to have like a longer time and people who can protect you, because he doesn't know who he's going to get, doesn't know where he's gonna go, so he kind of needs 4 lieutenants, one in each continent. Like, hey, I need your help because I happen to show up in your continent, and also.
Right. No, I'm not saying that the idea of the lieutenants is strange. It's very sensible. I'm just saying that the idea of him reincarnating into an adult's body and then absorbing their consciousness feels weird to me.
Okay, so it's not weird to me because that just makes it feel like it would just take longer to perform. So it's not necessarily... And we've talked about how we don't... Since he clearly took over Oscar and used the body for however he wanted to when he fought Hazel. Right. So who's to say he couldn't just do that immediately if the guy's like, oh, I'm going to resist you. It's like, no, you're not.
I guess the problem I have is that, like, with Oscar, he's still just, like, a child who's lost. He doesn't really have, like, his own unique identity yet. Like, he's very, like, I don't know.
He's working on it.
Unshaped at the time when Oz possesses him. I just feel like it would be like a weird, like, identity theft thing to, like, reincarnate into someone who has, like, a life already.
That sounds like a crime in itself.
It's just Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, and I think it has happened, and I think Oz feels bad about that.
Because what the alternative that I was going to propose was that either he reincarnated into a boy who became the headmaster, or he just reincarnated into one of the current headmasters.
Oh, definitely not just into one of the... I'm pretty sure he gets...
Definitely not?
Definitely. Unless if it happened to work out.
Right. Well, it's a like-minded individual. I don't know what the conditions are.
I think that's about it. And then you roll the dice and hope that you didn't spawn into an embryo.
But you'd think that since his intention was to set up 4 lieutenants,
yeah,
you'd think that if he reincarnated into a non-headmaster body, he would set up someone else to be a headmaster, and then...
I mean, I don't know if he decided to be headmaster because something happened to the old one, because I don't know if he... I mean, being a headmaster is a good plan, because he's kind of running the whole show, but I don't see why...
he's running the show at one academy.
Okay, I mean, he's running the whole show in terms like, oh, hey, we're going to coordinate to try to work against Salem.
Right.
Yeah. So in that degree, being a headmaster was smart because he gets more leverage. But he doesn't have to be a headmaster for this to work.
Right.
Yeah. And because he didn't, and since he was a headmaster, Crow was one of the lieutenants instead. So.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
Yeah. So it's possible that something happened to the person that could have been, or maybe the person he took over was the guy who was next in line.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the lieutenants thing, and what it seems like to me is that, instead of his stated goal of having the 4 headmasters be his lieutenants, I mean, at least from what we can see locally, because it's not like we can see all of his correspondences, obviously.
Yeah.
But it seems like his lieutenants are Ironwood, Glinda, and Crow in the first couple of volumes of RWBY.
Okay.
Because that's like his inner circle.
Yeah.
Conversely, this volume is pretty much the first time we've seen Leo.
Yeah.
And so obviously Ironwood is a headmaster, so that's true. But there is another academy in Vacuo Shade, which we don't know anything about.
Nothing.
We certainly don't know who the headmaster is or what they're like.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, that'll be a great volume 7. But
tell me about it.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to bring that up because there was more that was added to it in this volume.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to think about what Ozpin's powers are and essentially how they work, and similarly how the main powers work. I mean, it seems like they work under different veins, which makes me think if suddenly these new conditions were imposed, like let's say that maybe he had a bunch of power when he was the wizard, he distributed them, and then after that he gets cursed. Like maybe he was just a very powerful entity, then he split up his powers to help fight against Salem. That's when he failed. That's when he gets cursed, and now he has to continue.
I don't know. It's like I see what you're saying, but in my personal headcanon, what I imagine happening is that the reason that he's depressed and alone in this cabin is because, I mean, you know how people in media who are cursed with immortality, they go through that stage where they just give up.
Yeah.
That's where I imagine Ozpin was in his life. Like, he had already been failing for a long time. And he tried a couple times, and he kept failing. And he kept watching the people around him die. So what he ended up trying to do was, like, he gave up, and he sequestered himself in this cabin. He was like, he pulled a Blake. He was like, if I never let anyone in, no one can ever get hurt by me.
Wow.
Right?
I guess.
So, and then ultimately the maidens pulled him out of it.
Yeah. The maidens were like, hey, we'll be your friends.
I mean, that's just my headcanon, obviously not validated in any way by anything, but that's just what I think.
And then he's just like, you want to be my 4 lieutenants? Okay, I guess.
Sure.
You can help me save... We'll help you save the world, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, totally possible.
So
is your idea of who knows?
We don't know enough. We don't know anything about the relic. I don't know how that's involved. It's probably interesting. But a few more things I want to mention.
Oh.
Continue.
Oh, well, just because you mentioned the relics, I just wanted to mentioned this, that in the same conversation, I think, or maybe it was the Crow Campfire conversation. No, it was definitely the Crow Campfire conversation, right? Right, the relics are like explained to be the direct gifts of the gods, or they're created by the gods.
Oh, that I did not remember.
And
that's exciting.
And right, Crow says that whoever gathers the 4 relics will have the power to change the world.
Son of a gun, that's impressive.
Which is exactly what you were saying several episodes ago about, gathering the relics, etc., etc.
Yes, that it's important to do that. Maybe that's how I came up with that idea. That's very likely.
I'm subconsciously a genius.
No, it's possible that I just stated that because I remembered that campfire story unintentionally.
I also feel like it is a fairly it's a reasonable conclusion to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they did say that. They did talk about that, how they were created through divine power and given, and then, the Huntsman Academies were created by the Oz's predecessor to protect them, and so that they would always be defended.
Yes.
And so Salem couldn't get her hands on them.
Yes.
And, yeah.
All right. Nice. Okay. So, a few things I want to mention. One, the things that we described as a weapon and pointed at Leo, Grim.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the seer, obviously.
Yeah, it's obviously the seer.
Which, I genuinely thought it was Leo's weapon.
Yeah.
Not Leo's weapon, sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
Watts' weapon.
I agree. I thought it was a weapon or weird semblance of some kind, so that was an interesting twist. Ilya, she's probably going to go with, we mentioned this before, but she joins their side.
Hooray.
And it seems like White Fang is going to be doing some good things in the future.
Yeah.
They might not be called the White Fang anymore, doesn't matter. But I think that goes very well with the line of, although it's going to take the exact line I forget, but although it's going to take a long time to reach your goals, essentially, and that is when Blake is jumping one way and Yang is jumping the other. For both of them, that's true. With Blake, it's, okay, we're going to make the faunus equal to humans. Like, that's going to take a long time. And then with Yang, although not quite as long, it's kind of like dealing with her emotional trauma and dealing with her crutch of resemblance. So, I felt like that line was pretty apt. And then,
lofty goals, yeah, definitely.
Yes. And then lastly, to return back to, since we mentioned earlier about, Yang and Raven's relationship, that gets a little bit more flushed out in this volume.
One of my favorite parts of this volume, definitely.
Yes. That was a very great conversation, where it's interesting because Yang, at first she's kind of like, oh, hey, Mom, did you do that? Did you do this? Asking her a bunch of questions like her mom told her to. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, you have not done some great things in the past. It's like, yeah, but I did it to survive. It's like, yeah, you're afraid. And I'm a do better than you.
Yeah, I already talked about my feelings about that in depth in the past, so I won't, go into it again.
The past, if they go in order, the future.
Whatever.
That's fine. But I just want to point out that essentially that the relationship just got a bit more fleshed out, and it's interesting to see how much, to find out more about Raven's motives, and that it seems like it's been heavily driven by fear of Salem and just kind of protecting her own and kind of only herself,
right? Yeah,
a little bit after she became an eye for Ozpin, I guess.
Yes.
And how Yang has really, really stepped up.
Yes, of course.
Which we have mentioned that many, many times, but mentioning it more I don't think is an issue because it is ridiculously impressive. But yeah, I believe that is all I have to say about Volume 5 related stuff to this opening.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I didn't really have anything else to add for the spoilers.
Okay.
I think we covered most of it. And then, of course, we'll cover the details in the individual podcast episodes for the volumes.
Yes.
As we get there.
We will finish Volume 5.
And I'm sure we will reference back to the opening multiple times during that.
I imagine we will reference things that are in the past, future, and mostly present. But,
okay, sure.
Anyway, thank you very much for listening to the spoiler section. This is a very long video, so thanks for sticking with us.
There are Lord of the Rings movies that are shorter than this.
Yeah, there are. To summarize, we primarily talked about Ozpin's potential powers, many theories about that, just putting a little bit of extra ideas into, oh, hey, look, these lines, they have more correlations with more characters with more knowledge, like Hazel and stuff like that. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please post them either in the comments section or at RWBY, or send us an email at RWBYRamblings@gmail.com.
Yes, clearly we love discussing, so feel free to discuss with us.
Yes, it would be very enjoyable. Questions might be answered at another in the next podcast episode.
Thanks so much for listening.
Bye. See you next time.